Welcome to the maker's world, where every spark of an idea becomes something real. Right here in Czechia, we build tools that peer into particles and launch satellites into orbit. It's where the word robot was born. And Čapek's vision of automation still fuels the imagination of today's inventors. From prototypes shaped at FabLabs to bold experiments led by students, entrepreneurs, and researchers. This is curiosity in motion. The next era begins with you, innovating, exploring, going further. From clean energy to quantum breakthroughs, we're shaping what comes next. Over the next 8 days, FabX comes to life. 42 speakers, 255 sessions, 100 chances to get hands-on, 5 evenings of conversations that matter, and 6 mobile Fab Labs, arriving ready to build, share, and inspire. From every corner of the world, you're coming to be part of it. This isn't just an event. It's a celebration of making, sharing, and shaping what comes next.
Good morning, Fab people. Hi. And welcome to the day 4 of FAB25 Czechia. I hope you enjoyed yesterday and you explored Brno far and wide and maybe tasted even more than just a legendary Czech beer. I saw some of you tried svíčková, very good choice. I saw Wiener Schnitzel, duck with red cabbage and dumplings, even better choice. And I also saw a few cakes here and there. Never a bad idea to have a cake. So let me tell you, you are definitely not losing weight with us. You are not getting skinny, but it's a good thing. Here at Brno, we believe that everybody is bikini body, so don't worry about it too much. And today, we are starting the last day of the Brno part of FAB25, and by the end of the day, we'll officially reach the halfway point of this whole event. Before that, thanks to our general partner, Prussia Research, for the support of this event, and thank you to our media partners. So let's meet them. First one, Hexter.io, a global community of developers, makers, and technology enthusiasts. The platform connects hardware project creators and provides a space for sharing knowledge and ideas. And they organized a competition and brought the winners to FAB25, so we are happy to have them. And the second one, Make, a renowned magazine and platform dedicated to maker culture, DIY project, and creative technology. It inspires and educates the maker community through articles, tutorials, and projects, spanning everything from electronics to traditional crafts. The community also gave birth to the global Maker Faire Festival Network. 12 of them are happening right here at Czechia. And we hope you explore the content of your welcome bags that you received the first day, including info and special deals from our partners. And of course, there's that shiny little PCB inside, ready to be turned into your own personal light here in Brno. And now to today's program track. We've said a lot about what FabLabs can do, and today we are turning the spotlight to one of their biggest impacts. It's education. FabLabs offer hands-on open spaces where learning feels more like discovery than instruction, and where failing is part of the process. But even though STEM education is finally part of the public conversation, it's still not where it needs to be. Support is often scattered, and opportunities are not distributed evenly. Yet the need for the future-ready skills is greater than ever. In a world where technology changes faster than we can teach it, it's not just about learning tools. It's about building confidence, adaptability, and curiosity. And today, we'll hear from educators, makers, and young talents who are rethinking how we teach, learn, and grow in the digital age. And same as yesterday, we offer you one question to reflect on during the day. And in the spirit of Bridge the Gap, today's question is: how can FabLabs prepare people, not just for today's tools, but for tomorrow's unknowns? Let it sit in the back of your mind, and maybe, just maybe, at the end of the day, we'll find your own answer. or maybe find more questions. It's also possible. But before we start, another round of fresh and fabulous announcement, this time from Neil.
Good morning. Just helping everyone wake up. So for this morning's announcements, day one, I talked about the need and opportunity to scale. Day two was transition, the arc of both Sherry and me. Yesterday, I talked about a number of exciting education initiatives. Today, I want to tell you about a couple network-wide programs that are growing and invite your involvement. The first was really quite a surprise. So yesterday, you heard the wonderful talk from Koshi, this mashup of FabLabs, Toyota, Winam, local production. This is another one, but it's really driving the transition I've been stressing about FabLabs growing beyond their roots as where you get access to a laser cutter. So Procter & Gamble, the global consumer goods group, asked me to be on their podcast, and I kind of shrugged and wondered what that had to do with anything. And that began a conversation, and in it, I challenged them. I said, rather than producing products for hygiene that are proprietary, non-sustainable, and shipped at a long distance, why don't you turn your business model inside out and do sustainable production with local materials, working with local communities? And to my shock, they took that seriously. And so that led to a project called High-Tech, Hygiene Technology, where they've been working with a number of groups around the world on testing exactly that. And one of the leads is Brno. And if you don't know Brno, are you here? Yeah. So if you don't know Brno, come meet Brno, who grew up in the Amazon. And what's been really striking is bringing together the indigenous group and the multinational. Both were really worried about the damage each could do to each other. And what they found was an amazing sweet spot at their intersection, where there's great wisdom in indigenous traditions about what you use for oral care to protect you from mosquitoes, things like that. But what P&G knew about is the labs, how you test, how you assess, how you measure, how you characterize, how you prove efficacy. And so we've been working with the indigenous communities, Brno and P&G, to deploy labs to test, measure, characterize, and develop local products, and now are co-creating businesses. And to an amazing extent, both sides are really finding great value in working together. And right at the heart of it, it's like the moment when we deployed FabLabs, but now we're deploying labs for material science, for chemistry, and for hygiene. And so another part of this project is looking at clean water production. And so there are a number of sites, including Rwanda, Bhutan, Chile, working in this high-tech project, looking at sustainable production of local solutions for hygiene and deploying labs for that. So all of that is the high-tech project, and if you're interested, see Brno to follow up with that. And many of you know who's working with me on that. Here's a second surprising initiative. The musician Peter Gabriel approached me. Years ago, he did a song, Panopticon. Panopticon is creepy. This was a penal idea of prisons where one guard could supervise many prisoners. Peter's vision of Panopticon was to turn it inside out, and so the world could tell the world stories. And his background, years ago, he started Elders, which was a group where he got Nelson Mandela, Desmond Tutu, Jimmy Carter, wise elders to help be a resource for the planet. The vision for Panopticon is to do that kind of from the bottom up, help the world tell the world stories. So Peter approached me about that for help with it, and the FabLab network has built multiple geospatial systems. So FabLabs.io is the map to find FabLabs. Adam Stone, some of you know, made an expert map to find expertise in the lab network. A group here has made the FMCU, where you push a button and find labs all around the world. So we put together a prototype of a geospatial data system as a sketch of what Panopticon could look like. Then, next door to that, at the Mexico meeting, I brought in Alex McDowell, who is Steven Spielberg's production designer, and I had worked with him on a number of Hollywood movie projects. And he does world building, where when you make a $200 million movie, you don't do it as a perturbation. You stop and think, what should it look like? And then you make it so. And so Alex has been working with the group here, including Rico and many other people, on a question surprisingly or at least I haven't been asking. We've been asking, what's the next step for Fab Labs? Not what's our destination? Where do we end up? And so this world-building group has been looking at what is the world we want to create? And then how do we get to that world? In turn, the third leg is video game development platforms are crossing the uncanny valley and becoming photorealistic. And so all of these are merging together into Panopticon as a global geospatial data platform to tell the world stories, both existing and scenario planning for the future, mashing all of these together. And a starting point for that, picking up on the high-tech project, is indigenous storytelling, taking traditional knowledge and helping celebrate, share, and distribute it. And so here the FabLab network is growing beyond its roots as laser cutters into a geospatial knowledge platform given our global footprint. And so all of that is Panopticon, and Jean-Michel is one of the points for that if you want to follow up on that. And the third note is, I've mentioned Fab 2.0, the transition from buying to making labs, and there's so much happening with that. If you weren't there yesterday, the machine building workshop was packed and really productive and really fun. So I'm showing Fab in a Box is a project with SolidWorks. Rather than donating one lab, it's investing in roughly $10,000 mini labs that come with the teacher in the box, in effect, to deploy access at much larger scale. Danielle and Gracia and team have done a fabulous job on the Open Lab Starter Kit, a complete Fab Lab with open designs. Lower left, I'm showing one of the classes I teach at MIT I'd like to do through the Fab network is how to make something that makes almost anything. The class in rapid prototyping of rapid prototyping. Lower right are all Fab Lab machines. Let's see, you see Jens waving. Fab Lab machines made with Fab Labs. And so this cloud of activity is racing ahead. Danielle is a good resource. Jens is another good resource. For if you make a Fab Lab in a Fab Lab, it can be faster, better, cheaper. The skills and jobs can be local, but in particular, you don't just need to make the machines as you know them, but you can adapt them to local needs, dreams, opportunities. You can progress into personal automation, from personal fabrication. And we have to mash together CAD, CAM, machine control, and motion control. So there's a great team developing it. If you're interested, we invite you to join into the machine building. And finally, for a taste of all of these things, let me advertise at the Academeni graduation tonight, there's a highlights video of the greatest work of the network, and you'll see students all around the world working in all of these areas. So I invite your participation in these. Thank you.
Thank you, Neil. 3 great notes to start with. Up next is today's keynote, followed by a live Q&As, of course. And it's coming from someone whose work helped define what it means to be a maker and open the doors for millions of people to join the movement. In 2005, he founded Make magazine and introduced the term makers for those who find joy and meaning in hands-on creation. A year later, he launched the first Maker Faire in San Francisco Bay Area. That spark spread fast and reached all the way here to Czech Republic and beyond. For nearly 20 years, he's been sharing maker stories, producing events, and building a global community rooted in creativity, learning, and collaboration. Often called the father of the maker movement, please welcome Dale Dougherty. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Dobar dan. Good morning. Good to see all of you here. I'm going to talk about belief. And about 2009, I did a TED Talk, and going into it, I was thinking, how do I talk about what's going on? And while I know I could say there were some people who were makers, there are geeks, or there are hackers, or there are certain groups, I thought, I'm going to say that everyone is a maker. It's something that's available to all of us to do, to become. And it's really a belief. It's not something I have a lot of evidence to support. But I choose to believe that rather than there's a certain group of people who have these skills and the rest of us don't. So a lot of this talk has to do with beliefs. I've been saying that, or I should say when I was 18, I thought I'd be a priest. And then I thought I'd be a teacher. I became none of those things, but you might see in this talk that things have a way of proving out. And I've been studying the Protestant Reformation lately, and therefore I want to introduce you to your countryman Jan Hus, that at least he was a Bohemian priest, and he began, in his sermons to criticize the church. He questioned their practices. He wanted to relate, particularly the Bible, to everyday people. He was responsible for a translation into Czech of the Bible. And for all his efforts, he was hauled before a papal group, and he was labeled a heretic and burned at the stake. Now, I know it's not a great idea to begin a talk where you bring someone up and they're burned at the stake, but I like to think about a different kind of fire, the fire within that makes people believe something very strongly, right? And also face up to authority when authority's wrong. I want to explain something that I think is fascinating because it's absolutely insane. The medieval church created something called the infinite treasury of merit. They made it up. They said that, we as sinners go through life accumulating debt. Every sin is on the ledger, in effect. But those who went before us, Jesus, the saints, they went into heaven with a surplus. And the church said, we can make that surplus available to you. We can sell it to you. And that was the idea of indulgences. It sounds like a crypto scheme to me. Well, there were people outside of churches, and, it was a kind of gamification of salvation, right? You'd give a confession, and they'd say your Hail Marys and buy 3 indulgences for some amount of money. And so Hus didn't like that. And then they came up with a great idea. You could not only buy indulgences for yourself, like to reduce, your deficit or debt. You could buy it for the dearly departed. The people that are in purgatory, you could buy indulgences for them. And this became a big scheme for the church to finance new construction. The Pope particularly wanted to build new buildings in Rome, and he was sending his folks out to sell more indulgences. But even in churches in Germany and stuff, they were also, it was a period where they were using relics, and viewing a relic, you got an indulgence, and they're really ridiculous things. Well, Martin Luther comes along 100 years after Hus, and he starts calling out these issues. He calls it a corrupt practice. And he has this really kind of important idea that the church cannot sell salvation. It only comes from God, and it only comes because of an act of faith or belief. Well, just like Hus, that got him in trouble. To criticize the church in that day was, was to criticize their business model. And so he goes before a pope, and the emperor's in there, and all this, the state and the church are all together, and they ask him to recant, to say he doesn't believe what he said previously. And he says famously, "Here I stand. I cannot do otherwise." Now, he left that meeting excommunicated from the church. He was a monk, so he would not have a home anymore. He was alone. And he is said to have said, "All of us are Hussites," without knowing it. And to me, he reached back in that past and found a connection, that he wasn't alone. There were other people. And the Hussites became a movement here locally. And what he started really became a movement much more after his time. And probably the reason why he wasn't burned at the stake is because he was a great writer and a great orator. And he was able to get his ideas in front of more people. He wrote the 95 Thesis, and it said, maybe it's arguable whether he actually posted them on the wall, church wall in Wittenberg, but they were published originally in Latin and then in German. And something happened in between the time of Hus and Luther, and that's the invention of the printing press, movable type, Gutenberg. And that allowed these ideas to spread among the people rather than be contained by the church. And so one of the things I just mentioned about Gutenberg that I saw was interesting is Gutenberg took investment as an inventor to help finish his press. And before he was really able to deploy it, his investor wanted his money back and sued him. And Gutenberg lost the suit and went bankrupt and had to start all over again. If you know my history, it might resonate. But Luther's sermons and writings were popular. They were published as pamphlets and distributed widely. And, it's thought that, he had this uprising of popular support behind him that helped protect him from either the emperor or the pope. He went on to do really important things, like translating the Bible into German, not the first to do it, but he was the first to write in a common language, accessible to people. He created similes and metaphors to explain things that literally weren't in the Bible, but he wanted to relate to his audience. And it's quite an achievement because he and Protestants believed that you could have direct access to the Word of God, and that should be your guide, not the church. So that's revolutionary, and it led to all kinds of changes. And I'm going to come back to why I believe that's important. It is kind of interesting history, but I think it's more important than just that. And I'm going to continue on the printer theme because, in the 1980s, the laser printer was the big deal for me. That's kind of what, it was Apple created one, it was a Canon laser printer. And then they created new tools for creative expression. You could typeset documents. And I'm old, I guess, so I was enough to have been around typesetting as a thing where you got film and you cut and paste it on, and then that's how you created typeset copy. But these new tools began to make it accessible to anybody, including writers. And my first job, really, was as a technical writer. I wrote computer manuals, and my first machine that I wrote about was a CNC machine. And it was called, this is a later version of it, but it was called Light Machines. It was connected to an Apple II, to give you an idea of where the technology was. And I knew nothing about it. I didn't know anything about computers. I studied English and history in college. But I knew how to ask questions. And I knew, in some ways, how to write. And just, I had to explain this, how it worked, to people that were going to use that system. And part of that, through that process, I met Tim O'Reilly, and we had started really publishing little books, handbooks, nutshell handbooks. And, it was just the idea that we could explain, in that time, the Unix operating system and some of the utilities it used. And then we went to trade shows. This is me in my 1980s, and my wife in the middle, and Tim O'Reilly on the left. And we'd sell it, to programmers and others, and that's how we really started a publishing company, was sort of just doing those little handbooks. We didn't know what it meant to be a publisher or a printer, but we could do those things and figure it out as we went. Along the way, I was, soon after this, kind of interested in the late 80s in how to get those books about computers on computers, in effect, to digitize them some way. And I was playing around with HyperCard, if you remember that. I took some of our books and put them into a HyperCard stack. And I began, just some different efforts in that. And I followed the Hypertext, it was an ACM group. And I went to a conference in 1991. And who did I meet there? But Tim Berners-Lee. Now, the funny thing is, this was a Hypertext conference, kind of academic. Tim Berners-Lee applied to teach about the World Wide Web or to showcase the World Wide Web in a talk. They rejected it. They didn't think it was important. They didn't think the web was very interesting. So he set up a poster session and just demoed it. And I got to talking to him and see what he could do. I thought, this is really interesting. And it was pretty much all text then. It was just, that if you're kind of old enough to remember, Gopher and other things were more popular than the web. And O'Reilly was working on a book called The Whole Internet User's Guide and Catalog. And I came back and we were just about to send this off to the press. I said, stop. We've got to put a section on the World Wide Web in there. And we did. And, I really believed it was important. And I began to making plans to do something on the web, and I hadn't really figured out what. There was no business model for anything. There was nothing really out there. But in July of 1993, Tim Berners-Lee and I organized the World Wide Web workshop. And we brought together developers of browsers and servers, like anybody that did anything related to the web. In 1993, that was about 30 people. And Mark Andreessen was a college student working on the Mosaic browser. And they came from Urbana-Champaign and showcased their work. And about a month later, I released GNN, which I believe was the first commercial website on the web. The internet had been kind of a academic thing. It wasn't necessarily used for business, and it began to change pretty quickly. So what I was really proud of on this is I figured out how to get a graphic on the web. And we were all concerned, with modems and low bandwidth. So we created individual strips there that could be sent as smaller files that were compiled. And the one thing that came out of the World Wide Web, the other thing O'Reilly was involved with a lot was the free software, and it became open source software. And I think one of the takeaways from The Cathedral and the Bazaar, Eric Raymond's book, was people want to know, well, why would anyone create free software? Why would you spend all that time doing something and then give it away? And his answer was, they're there to scratch their own itch. They have an idea for something, they just want to do it, and that's all they care about. And so, to me, this is the first maybe group that I recognize as kind of true believers. They had ideas other than business that they were about. They wanted to share their work. They wanted to work and collaborate with other people. So jumping ahead, there's some other things that happened, but kind of getting towards Make, I came back to O'Reilly after selling GNN, and I did a book called the Hack Series. And I was kind of interested in how people were hacking different things. But this particular book by Rafi Krikorian, who I believe is a Neil student, was about how people were hacking TiVos. TiVo was a digital video recorder, DVR, but it had Linux inside, and that excited every geek in the world. But they could take out the hard drive and replace it. They could upgrade the operating system. It was without, at least from TiVo's point of view, they didn't necessarily think of it as open hardware, but the community, realized it could be opened and hacked. And that made me think, I did about 12 books on hacks, and I started thinking, I wonder if I could do a magazine. I'd never published a magazine. But I thought, this is really interesting. And I was going to originally call it Hacks Magazine, but it became Make Magazine. And it was published in 2005, and this is our first issue. And it had kite aerial photography on the cover, and Chris Benton was a UC Berkeley professor who studied architecture, and he was interested in looking at buildings from different heights. And so he would put a camera on a kite and do that. And then it developed into an art form for him. Even after he left Berkeley. But I think the key thing we wanted to accomplish was we saw ourselves as a DIY magazine. And in terms of, if you think about a cooking magazine, it has recipes. It wants to help you cook that thing, not just talk about, here's this gourmet chef who creates great things that you should go to his restaurant and taste them. Well, here we wanted to show you how to do things. And so, and it's kind of interesting to me just to say, why do we do this in print when you can do it online? Well, online didn't really have much of a business model. And print, you could just do more. Graphically, you could create something special. And because we were about tangible things, I wanted to create a tangible thing, something you could hold. So the last thing I kind of say is I came up with the word make for it, and I was actually referencing a title of a book we published. Just it came to mind, that's all. Managing projects with Make was a utility in Unix for compiling programs. And the first line of the program, of the make file, was make : and that's where I came up with the name for that. I just liked it. It was a verb. And then, in the first time, in the welcome in that first issue, I used the term makers. I realized that we don't have readers, we have makers, and began using that. But makers are enthusiasts. They're a kind of, that term also has sort of a feeling like believers. And, this year we published the 20th anniversary issue. So we've been, a print magazine for 20 years today. It's pretty amazing. Thank you. So we've, managed to keep it going. And, really, it's I don't think of myself as the father of the maker movement. I don't know that's appropriate. I think of myself as the father of Make Magazine, maybe, or Maker Faire, but the movement kind of comes from everybody. It's that thing that sort of we have connected to each other around. And so, I came up with some of these things in here, we're all makers, but not everyone realizes they have the gift. And that's sort of what's been driving me is, I had this idea once that, if you went back 50 years ago, very few people thought of themselves as athletic, especially women, right? But look what's happened since then. Almost everybody is working out. I use the example sometimes, there's more people that have run a marathon today than ever in history. Right? Not because marathons have got easier, it's just more people think it's worth doing. And I think that the technology we're seeing has made it easier for more people to do things. And previously, only an elite few could do them. They needed a lot of training, and they had to have specialized expertise. And they didn't have access to tools like 3D printers that came along. Bree Pettis there was the three members of there's three in the original photo. But, Bree was a middle school art teacher who came to work for me doing weekend projects, a video series. And then they started building off of the RepRap their own printer. And they said, this is dang gone hard. We got to make it easier. And that's what led to MakerBot. People like Adafruit, Lemore Freed, began really creating an electronics business out of New York City. Amazing. And then one here, I just want to mention, this is Jordi Munoz. In 2009, we published this article about DIY drones. And that, Massimo mentioned it yesterday, that was an early startup with Chris Anderson. But Jordi is a young kid that's on the cover there. Chris went out to look for the person that had the most knowledge about drones, and he thought he would find someone at Berkeley or Stanford. Instead, he found a high school student who had just graduated and lived in Tijuana and spent some time in San Diego. Jordi had created an early version of ArduPilot, and he sold that. I have my slides a little bit out of order here, and I'm going to jump to this, actually come to this. So if you saw in the news in June about Ukraine drone strikes, a major attack in Russia, well, Ukrainians were using ArduPilot to guide their drones there. And in general, Ukraine has taken off as a drone center for drone expertise. I mean, they're fighting for their lives. Here they're making 3D printed grenades, which they would drop from drones. The early ones had a whistle to them, and they had to figure out, like, someone could hear them coming down. And because a lot of the men were away at war, they were training women in how to 3D print and creating workshops, in maker spaces in Kyiv, and building things like battery-powered lighting. So in 2006, about a year after Make Magazine, I had this idea that these are such interesting people, kind of bring them together and kind of create a mashup between an art fair, a craft fair, and a science fair, and just let makers talk to people about what they have produced, what they do it. And it's kind of gone around the world. We did it in New York. Here it is in Shenzhen. And, the one thing we had two things, I think, guiding principles. One, we wanted to make it fun and very accessible to everyone. It wasn't a geek gathering. It really was just something, too, we wanted families to come and bring kids. And yet, hopefully this will work. There you go. These are the kind of things you see. This is Maker Faire Tokyo, called Scramble Crossing. I can sit and watch that all day. This is a fellow that had the idea. He's like a Unity game developer in the theme parks in Orlando by day. He had the idea of making a game about mowing the lawn using a John Deere mower as the game controller. And then this one explains itself.
Richard Carter, and this car is the Sashimi Tabernacle Choir.
I see a little silhouette of a man. Scaramouche, will you do the fandango? Thunderbolt and lightning, very, very frightening me.
We're from Houston, Texas. This is an old Volvo, which we heavily modified.
Mamma mia, mamma mia. Mamma mia, let me go. Beelzebub has a devil put aside for me, for me, for me.
In terms of how it works, if you look over here, it all starts with this netbook. In the past, we had other systems. I originally ran it all off a basic stamp, but right now it's a netbook. We have a web-based interface that runs CGI scripts for the control system that talks to
I'll spare you all the details, but the interesting thing, Richard is a physicist, right, by day. Like, what people do is amazing. So because of COVID and other factors, we had a gap in Maker Faire in the Bay Area, but it came back in 2023, a new place on Mare Island, which is a naval shipyard, a historic naval shipyard. And it's amazing to have huge cranes and old warehouses, factories where they built submarines. But we still have some of the things that we've always had, little cupcake cars and things rolling around. And I'll come back to that in a minute. But I want to talk, one of the things that happened during COVID, a lot of you, how many of you were pandemic bakers? I was. Benjamin Covey is a Frenchman, works for Microsoft during the day, but he wondered if he could write a program that would be able to detect by smell when your sourdough starter was ripe. And, you know, if you know anything like an AI, like how image detection works, well, it's based on having, you know, all your photos online that it can, you know, begin to see how they're labeled, and you can figure out. We have, you know, a global image database. We don't put our smells online. There is nothing of a smell database to work from. And he began, you know, his project to create this, and he was able to, you know, kind of sample for like whiskey, beer, coffee, and tea. And, you know, just a kind of fun project. This is something I figured out how to do. And then after we published that, about 6-7 months later, I get a mail from Benjamin. Says, I want to introduce you to Caleb Kodama. You know, he used my project, the artificial nose, to detect the volatile organic compounds that are effectively markers for fungal pneumonia, a disease otherwise really hard to diagnose. He felt you could diagnose it by smell. Well, I called up Caleb and talked to him. I found out he was an 8th grader. He was 13 years old. And he had fungal pneumonia, and it had been difficult to diagnose. So he kept thinking about, could he create something to do that? And we published his article. And, you know, here's his science fair project. I think he won the California State Science Fair project in doing that. But, you know, this is how the maker community works. We see things, we connect to people, and they find new applications. But AI today, in the current issue I have here, is about robots with AI for brains. And it's really pretty fascinating, because if you think about it, it was something that was interesting to me about Make, is I felt like, you know, we don't want to just experience the world on a computer screen. I'm interested in things that people are doing, like the fish car. You know, I want physical things. I want to interact with them. Well, robots are taking AI into the physical world, and it can actually lead to actions. This was an early project. This is from New York Maker Faire, of the InMove robot, and it was developed by a man, Gail Langevin, who's kind of like more like an industrial designer than any kind of roboticist, but it's 3D printed. And in this current issue, we write about his project to develop facial expressions for that robot. We talk about he creates a mold and then creates a silicone skin that he puts over the robot, and has 17 motors in its face. Instead of him programming how to control those motors, he's giving AI a prompt, and it's listed there. And it says, I have 17 motors, and when you respond to someone, you know, in effect, figure out the right expression and create it using these 17 motors. So, and others I know are working on things where they're able to, through AI, instead of like writing code to say, here's how a robot walks, they do simulations 1 billion times to tell that AI tries to figure out if it can come up with different ways to walk. So it's really leading to a whole new way. This is last year at Maker Faire, and it's Vox had this on the cover of the magazine. And Michael Brady is the developer of that. And I just like seeing how kids interact with things at Maker Faire. I know humanoid robots can be creepy. This goes on for about a minute with this kid trying to get that robot to react to him, and it doesn't work. But I love seeing the kids at Maker Faire, and I am so glad it is a place where they can explore, they have hands-on activities, and they can do that. Here's just some pictures of this, and this young girl I saw in New York, I took a picture of her. She had come with a bowl on her head, a backpack that had dry ice, so she had, kind of smoke trailing her. And I did it a talk. And Liz, are you in the audience? Where are you? That's Liz's daughter, Liz Whitewolf. And I didn't know that, but she came out and told me, and I thought, wow, it is so cool that someone wanted to really dress up for Maker Faire. And then see kids, this is kind of just interact with a robot. It's very fun. We've seen kids grow up and become makers at Maker Faire. This is Quinn, who, if you can see the screen, he's teaching an intro to Arduino class to adults, and he's maybe 13 or something. I saw this recently, a young girl, this is her mortar board for graduating from high school. She had Makey on it. And she said, Maker Faire was one of my favorite things to do. And she says, I'm currently planning to study robotics engineering at UC Santa Cruz this coming fall and intend, to use that degree to continue my path as a maker. So I love those stories where we're seeing, kids grow up and carry this forward. In I think 2012, we started Maker Ed. We really wanted, my idea is that kids at Maker Faire come away saying, how do I get to be one of those makers? How do I do this? And their schools didn't offer it. And it's not like, sports, you can say, hey, you want to play soccer? There's a soccer league. So we're trying to organize that, wrote a makerspace playbook on how to set up a school makerspace. But especially after COVID, or because of COVID, a lot of those spaces have kind of been mothballed. Sometimes a lack of expertise, but often a lack of interest from the school in offering hands-on or project-based learning. And it's really frustrating to me. I wrote a thing in Maker Ed called Saving the School Makerspace. And I said, if you can't use that equipment, send it to me. I'll find someone who will. But it's just not at the center of schools. And I wanted to change that. And I've been working with our local public high school district, and we're opening a new school in a month called the Academy of Innovative Arts. And its goal is to get kids more time in a makerspace, not 20 minutes a week, but 2 hours a day, and to see if we can't really reshape the school day around student learning. I've built a makerspace there, and I've been using the term innovative arts because it resonates a little bit like with industrial arts, which was a program really started in America after World War II. And I have this idea from this is a pyramid. If you see it, there's a sense of progression from being exposed at the bottom to all kinds of practices to kind of identifying the things that you're most interested in and focusing on that in your later years. So typically there were 5 industrial arts: woodworking, masonry, upholstery, metallurgy, glassmaking. And I think we're adding maybe 5 more: digital fabrication, electronics, computation, robotics, and digital media and communications, which I think is also very important. Seeing the talk we had on the first day. Let me just skip over that. But, I think maker educators understand that we're talking about a mindset, not just using tools and not just developing skills, but this sort of can-do mindset. I can take an idea and make it real. But the important thing for me in the school is that kids are doing projects. And if I have a one-sentence reformation of school, it's get students to do projects based on their ideas and interests. And they need coaches, not teachers. But our schools are organized, if you look at this pyramid, really for the very top of this pyramid, reading and hearing, not to the bottom third of that pyramid. participating in hands-on workshops or design collaborative lessons. And I, am kind of pulling the school out of the blue. I don't know if it'll work. It's public schools, so everybody that's worked in public schools thinks like we have all these rules and regulations we have to follow, and I'm trying to push them to break those rules and regulations. But I've found some other schools, and here's one of them I visited, it's in Issaquah, Washington, outside of Seattle. It's called Gibson Eck. And they have a school, a lot like what I want to build, for 200, 250 students. And it's mixed levels. Kids freshmen aren't separated from juniors. There's no grades, there's competencies. And I think they just have a terrific program where the kids go every morning a couple hours in the makerspace to work on a personal project. And the principal says it's the most challenging thing for teachers, but it's also the most rewarding. And they have this thing that I really, really liked. They had good design labs. And if you think about it, it's a little bit like the workshops here in the afternoon, but every quarter they come up with a list of different workshops that teachers and students are interested in, and then they see how they get selected. But, this could be Blades, Battles, and Ballads, which is a literature thing about violence. To Feed Your Neighbor, I sat in on that and was, doing projects relating to food insecurity and things like that. So kids are doing stuff. But the idea of a design lab is that it is a little bit more like traditional school where there's a teacher leading that lab, so there's a little bit more formal structure to it. Howard Gardner said the ability to solve problems or create products that are valued in one or more cultural contexts is a definition of intelligence. And I think that's really, really a good way to think about it. It's not something that you score on a test. Which gets me into the thing that I've been running up and doing this new school and things, and why I got here. Why doesn't education change? We all know that schools could be better. We all have ideas. Teachers have ideas. But they don't change. They're the same as they always were. And I came up with this idea. The problem is they are institutions that are a lot like the medieval church. And that's why I started to study Reformation. When the state and the church are the authority and the bureaucracy that decide what you can do. They decide who to save and who not to save. Ivan Illich, and to keep up my string here, he was a priest out of Vienna, but lived around the world and wrote this book while he was in Mexico called Deschooling Society. And he writes, the ethos, not just the institutions of school, ought to be deschooled. And what he means kind of is the pupil is confusing teaching with learning, grade advancement with education, a diploma with competence, and fluency with the ability to say something new. So to me, this analogy to like the medieval is kind of like they lost sight of what it meant to be human. And I think our schools are losing sight of what it means to learn. We have in effect a treasury of merit that you can buy your way through, to advance, to do various kinds of testing. And what I really want to get at is I actually think that AI is going to have the same effect on society that the printing press did. And I did this lousy AI-generated image. And what I kind of liked about it was crushing the printer. You see where he's sitting in there? I think AI is telling me that publishers are going to be crushed. But I think it's really going to be a challenge to schools that have seen themselves as disseminators of knowledge. And students are going to have access to, in effect, the world's knowledge. It doesn't mean they'll use it right. It doesn't mean they'll know what to do with it. They still need humans, but they don't need people talking to them in place of interacting directly with that knowledge. And we know the kinds of things about cheating and stuff, but this is just a game. Teachers and students are both told they can't use AI, and they both are using it. It's an arms race. You know, the kids use AI to create an essay and then use AI to disguise it so it doesn't look like AI wrote the thing. And they figure out how to do it. It's senseless. I mean, it's clever, but senseless. So kind of ending up here is, what do we believe learning to be? I think if we start to think about that, that is going to help to shape the future of education. Because that's sort of the truth I'm getting at, is we want kids to be really good learners. We don't want them to just pass tests. And I think makerspaces and Fab Labs can be models for lifelong learning, for community-based learning. We already have them. I mean, if you walked in that tent yesterday at the university, that's vibrant. It's exciting seeing people doing all kinds of things, soldering and sewing. We have these spaces in our community. We just need more people connecting to them, and we need maybe small versions of them. Maybe this is what a school should look like in the future, right? A small footprint. So my time is up, but I just want to kind of conclude that I believe in agency and community. That's what I've learned about from the maker community. I believe in the human spirit and the creative spark in all of us. And that makes me optimistic. That makes me believe that we can work together to create change. So I'd ask you, be a believer, not just a maker, not just a doer, but believe in what you're doing and believe it matters. It's important. Thank you very much.
Dale Dougherty, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for a great keynote.
Thank you.
And yes, we are opening the time for Q&As
Yes.
from the audience. Thank you again, Dale. It was
Okay.
wonderful. And it's always great to see what makers can think of and make
Yes.
in the end. So I'm just curious, when was the last time you make something with your own hands?
That's a good question. I have to always admit that, I'm not the maker, it doesn't come from this. But the DIY part, I like to figure out how to do things. So I might make cheese or beer, or
Cool.
I grow things in the garden. I like to cook. I believe in learning how to do things. And one of the things I'm organizing, there's just different roles in life. I find myself, I'm organizing a maker camp the first week of August for middle school children, and I thought I'd get 20 kids. I've got 48, but we're going to do blacksmithing and glass blowing and sewing, and I've been trying to figure out. There's some gel printing and water marbling and stuff that I would like to do with them. So I try to figure out how to engage around that. I'm kind of to be honest, a bit of a bookish person. I like to read and study and learn and explore and that kind of stuff. That's a kind of making.
It definitely is. Are there any spots left to this camp? Or
No.
No? You should do
think
something
I'm
like
at
that
my
for
limit.
adults.
Well,
wanna
that's
go.
what I'm saying here. People want this in their lives. The glass blower I have coming, he set up a glass blowing studio and he created 8 stations. And he has people come up from San Francisco for a 6 to 8 hour glass blowing workshop. It's tourism of sorts, right? They're not trying to be glass blowers. They just want the experience of doing it. They want to be hands-on. They want to be away from their phones.
Yeah. Okay, so let's look at the questions from the audience. If you were designing a school from scratch, what's one thing it must have, and what would you leave out completely?
Well, I think the makerspace is
the must-have.
Is the must-have, and that's what I'm centering on. I am trying to leave out as much as I can the classes. I'm more interested in workshops and less formal structures than that. I'm not a big fan of curriculum, and it's a question. I'm kind of trying to find out how to write about it, but people say, well, is there any maker curriculum? And there is, But I go, what do you want curriculum for? What are you asking for? What do you want it to be? And sometimes it's just, I have to show it to my administration, so they kind of check it off. But there's versions of curriculum out there that's very rigid. It's scripted. Teacher does this every day. Kids don't like it. Teachers don't like it. Like, why do you want more of that? So projects are curriculum, and you can limit them or expand them. So that's what I'm interested in seeing.
What would be your advice to parents or future parents if they want to raise curious, creative, hands-on children in today's digital world?
Yeah, it's a great question. Well, first of all, your kids are curious, right? I think this is, maybe I didn't bring that up, but, it's in their nature to learn. I mean, they want to do these things, but our systems don't really foster that. Yeah. So, in early on, we were kind of trying out versions of Maker Faire. We worked with the Exploratorium, and we were doing some tinkering studio work. We had parents come in with kids. We just have little things like solder, do things. And I realized in a lot of cases, the kids' parents had never tinkered, right? So they didn't realize this was something playful or fun, and they had to learn about it. So to some degree, I'd say learn with your kids. And I think when I'm talking about like community-based maker spaces and things, should be family-friendly. They should have parents welcome as much as kids.
You used photos of civilian maker activities in Ukraine. How can makers contribute to resilience, emergency response, and reconstruction, not defense? Yeah.
Well, I know military is a sensitive issue to all of us. Nobody really wants to see that, but I understand what Ukraine is doing. Andrew, are you in the audience? Internet production and some things like that. There are various groups that are doing, field ready, and others that are, really trying to build resilience. I mean, even the precious plastics, all these things we've seen here. There's a lot of good examples there.
Mm-hmm. Okay. How do you see the future of maker fairs?
I don't know. I have different things. They're still going mostly. We have been building them back up after COVID. I just want to say it's really hard to do. It's a really complex, thing. Massimo mentioned Maker Faire. Rome is the largest Maker Faire, and they've got government support to do it. It's hard to get sponsors. It's hard for producers to do it. But we still have a couple hundred a year. Some are small. I was at Maker Faire Lille in France. They had a wonderful fair. It was backed by Leroy Merlin. And then at the same time, they had small Maker Fairs in all the Leroy Merlin stores throughout France. So that's wonderful to expose lots of people. And, I show those examples of the kids and how they're growing up, and that's what I believe is valuable. And exposing them to this sort of creative outpouring and imagining that they can be part of that, that's what we're trying to do. So, if anyone has ideas, I hope we keep it going as long as it makes sense to. But as Neil was saying earlier about transitions, we all have to face that.
How can MAKE and University Fab Labs better collaborate to shape the future of hands-on innovation, learning, and community impact?
Well, this conference is wonderful, bringing all these folks together. It's hard to collaborate at the same time. It's wonderful to be together and talk, and then we go away and you get back to your work. So I was saying earlier, I think community maker spaces and such in the U.S., they don't do a lot of collaboration, from one space to another. They don't meet regionally. They know each other. I don't have a good idea of how they could do more. I think a lot of times you see, they're siloed and they're not connecting. That's
You
kind
need
of where it
good
is.
partners to enter the conversation
do.
and
And
to
I
work
mean,
together.
Opportunity.
Yeah.
Someone out here may come up with that idea.
How do you think educators can introduce AI in teaching in a way that is constructive?
Yeah, well, I was reviewing a book that I out called The Learner's Apprentice, and just has just tons of creative ideas of how to use AI almost in any subject. To see it as a creative tool is kind of where it follows the trend of maker stuff. It's getting easier to do things. That can be good and bad. Sometimes you're like, oh, well, they don't know what's behind like creating code anymore or other things. But that taste of creating something new is, I think, something that we want them to have. I feel like, there is understanding how it's different than just asking, like you would a search engine, asking a question, and that you're really interrogating and really having more of a conversational approach to AI, of building something, asking, saying, I don't like that, how can I change it, and refining it. Iteration, in other words, is what we do in making. So I think that, it's not about the product, it's about the process, right? Who cares? I get a silly image from, ChatGPT. How did I do that? And what else can I do?
Would you be using AI in your school?
Yes. I think that's, I want to see where the kids are in that. But I don't want to, they're not going to get standard essays to go use, ChatGPT to create for them. So it's really, like one of the examples of the book that I really liked was, use ChatGPT to create a historical character, and then have a conversation with them about their life and things like that. That's really, if you think about it, it's like creating a game instead of using a game.
Okay.
So think about those kind of constructs.
What is one value or principle that maker movement should never compromise on?
Well, I think it's this agency. I think is like we want. Well, another way of saying it is I want the freedom for individuals, to pursue what's important to them. We're not trying to create dependent people. We're trying to create people who can do things themselves and feel empowered to do things, that there's a lot that needs to be done. And if we empower people to do that, some of that will get done.
Speaking of that, don't you believe that for changing education, what we have to change is not schools, but teacher education completely?
Well, there's a point there. I believe that teachers should be coaches, not teaching. That there's a coaching model, like in sports. What teachers could do more is guide practice and give good feedback. They don't necessarily need deep technical expertise. Their students are human beings, and they're experts in working with human beings. So I think it's get outside the subject area and start thinking about how do you help students create and perform using, tools and things like that.
Okay, I think we have time for one more. Why, in your opinion, are we trying to create humanoid robots instead of working on other shapes?
Oh, well, we do have an article in there, and it's kind of, on anatomy of a humanoid robot. I think it always gets a lot of attention, but there's obviously these two-wheeled robots and all kinds of things on there. I think it's just a fascination of that mirror image of this is something that kind of looks like us. What can it do? But it's, we just published a book on robotic arms, and it's not really a whole human; it's just an arm doing things. But learning how to program that and work with it is really fascinating. A lot of math in that, inverse kinematics.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dale, for being so generous with your time and for answering all the questions.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, guys. And let's take a 20 minutes bio break and see you back here in 20 minutes. Thank you, guys. And thank you again.
Thank you.
Welcome back, people. Thank you. I hope. Thank you, guys. I hope you are feeling refreshed and ready to go. Before we start our next session, a few practical, very important things to address. So first, Maker Train. Tomorrow, the one and only Maker Train leaves Brno Dolní nádraží at 10:15. So please make sure to be there on time. And remember, it's not the main train station, it's another train station. So please double check the location and the instruction in the FAB25 app and on our website. On the screen now, you should be able to see a maker badge, and there is a symbol of carriage and a letter. And the letter tells you which carriage to board tomorrow. So seats are not assigned, but please make sure to board the carriage that matches the letter on your badge. If you don't have a carriage symbol on your badge, we checked it, and we should have enough space to accommodate all of the registered participants. So please, even if you don't have a carriage symbol on your badge, come tomorrow at 10:15 to Brno Dolní nádraží. Just head to a waiting area, and you'll receive more guidance there. Yay! We are happy about it too. Okay, and we know there is a huge party tonight. Just please set those alarm clocks, because the train only leaves once, and if you'd missed it, you have to figure out your own way to Prague, and it would be a shame. So, one more thing related to Prague logistics, headphones. Quick check, who's got their headphones with them? Not here, but in Czechia in general. Okay, so you are good. If you don't have any, please try to get a pair before the program starts at Prague, because you'll need them for many of the workshops. We'll be using the app to stream the presenter's voice and instructions straight to your phone, so everyone can hear clearly. Okay, let's dive into another session. How often do you hear someone from a younger generation speak about their education, their stories, struggles, visions on a big stage? That was the question Jan, the FAB25 program lead, asked himself early on while thinking about this year's program. And the answer was clear: almost never, and definitely not enough. That's why the next two speakers represent exactly that group, voices of a new generation, bringing fresh perspectives on learning, making, and navigating the digital age. And after their talks, there will be a shared and short Q&A session, so make sure you send in your question through the FAB25 app, and there is a special session to that. It's called Young Generation Takes Over the Stage Q&A. So this is the place when you hit the button, ask the question, and send in your questions. Our first speaker will explore a question that matters to all of us. What does it really mean to learn in digital age? She's a designer, an educator who creates meaningful but also fun learning experiences. She co-founded Moonmakers, a non-profit that empowers young people through technology, art, and hands-on exploration. Her work blends participatory design, storytelling, and STEAM education to rethink how we learn locally and globally. And if you are not following her yet, I'm pretty sure you will after this talk. So please welcome Camila Luna to the stage.
So, ahoy everyone. I'm really excited to be here in front of everyone and be part of this amazing event. And honestly, when I arrived, the first thing I did when I arrived to the theater was come right away to the main stage, you know. And I got really excited because it's an amazing event, and there's like all the organizers are doing incredible things to make this happen. And I mean, the stage is amazing. It just give you that sensation that we're doing great things in the conference, and I'm really grateful to share the stage with a lot of people that have inspired me in the past. But I'm really grateful to be part of the event and be here in front of everyone. So I just want to thank that, like the organizers, to make this happen and to create this. Oh my God, thank you so much. I mean, I'm inspired by this amazing community and the amazing people that came all the way to meet here. And I think it's a really interesting topic, the one that I want to talk about today. So we are living in a time in which technology and information is really approachable, but also allow us to be able to read a whole library in the palm of our hands, you know? But also when it comes to learning, it's hard to build that experience because we feel disconnected to that experience. So I feel where schools are introducing robotics or 3D printings and robotics, but often we're not changing the way we think about why or how we learn. So this is what I think is the paradox of digital learning. We are surrounded by tools, open source platforms, microcontrollers, technology that we see that is trying to get into education, but the system itself hasn't achieved that much. So that's where this conversation starts, right? So I'm Camila Luna, how they mentioned. I'm the co-founder of Moonmakers, and I'm an educator, maker, and someone that believes that learning can and should feel like exploration for sure. My own learning path has been really diverse and unconventional. I have moved through traditional schooling, homeschooling, as well as really learning by myself, hybrid models, and fully online education. So along the way as well, I have explored different educational frameworks, from project-based learning to peer-to-peer, to design thinking, to even using digital fabrication or collaboration making. And today, I don't just learn, I also create and facilitate learning for others. So for teachers around the world, we teach them how to integrate technology and how to bring maker movement or the values that they have to the classrooms. We have worked with different companies around the world, looking for more people to understand these values and create environments in which we can explore and learn. So we have collaborated with Sesame Street, which I'm right there in the corner, with Lola and Abby, trying to spread robotics to more girls, more STEAM, and understanding that they can be part of this world of education and technology. We have collaborated with May community. It was such a nice thing to say Dale before me. So, I mean, he's an amazing community. And as well, creating content and trying to spread all of this. So I think something really interesting is we need to keep asking us what actually means learning in everyday life, in this digital age time. So it doesn't really go around just using technology. It goes beyond that. It's about learning that helps to stay curious, stay connected, and grow the world as it grows as well. So today, the world is evolving faster than ever, and there's still ideas about learning often are left behind. So according to different statistics, 65% of people, kids from elementary school, they're learning, but most of their careers doesn't exist at all. So, I mean, we see that educational system needs to do more in not just teaching content, but they must feel the capacities of uncertainty in the future and teach creativity and adaptation for sure. UNESCO has emphasized that digital technologies must be made to promote equity and human-centered work, which is really important. And practicing these things around, these skills go beyond clicking or using a computer. And I think that's a really interesting subject because this year I decided to try something new, which is Fab Academy. And really nice experience in which they teach us every week a new subject. And we go beyond them And we create projects every week, and we are testing and creating and collaborating with other Fab Labs around the world. So it's one of the experiences that I feel most connected when it comes to learning, because you are exploring all the time, and you make a lot of mistakes as well. So it was a really fun experience. First, we have the global class in which Neil make an introduction to the subject, and then you go to your local or your node, your Fab Lab, and from there you start making text about the subject. In this case, it was FabLab Cuenca, in which I spent the last few months just creating every single day and document all my projects. So that helped me understand a little bit more about my perspective about teaching and the different digital age skills or competence. So for me, there's something that I want to summarize here. I think critical thinking and problem solving is the base to this. If we are able to make the right questions in the right moments and be able to that thing about reflect about it, allow us to be creative about the solutions that are around us, the problems that we are facing as a society or like humanity. So I feel like when it comes to the Fab Academy, we see all of that every day. There's always something that didn't went as planned, and we have to came with a creative idea or like a way to fix that. As well, creativity and experimentation. If we are allowed to have a space in which you can develop the subject, in which you can feel safe to try, it's super important as well in a really young age, because you feel you will learn from that experience most that if you're just learning from content. And obviously collaboration and communication. I mean, FabLab network is around the world, and there's a lot of people from different backgrounds. And one really key moment or like highlight from the Fab Academy experience was that every week I was able to talk with the whole network from students all around the world and hear what they were doing, how they went through the subject that I went that same week, and how they fixed their things that face. So it was like really interesting to be able to collaborate, even though we were in different places, and allow you to understand also different ways to face the problem that you're encouraging when it comes to creating. Then digital literacy. I mean, we need to understand technology, even though it's in our pockets right now. Like in the last couple of talks, right? There's a lot about cell phones, like the anorexia of cell phones, or like building your own phone, like also did Scotty. So we need to understand all these different practices to be part of the development of technology and to be part of the future as well. Because when it comes to tech, it's not that far, and if we are just consumers, we cannot be part of the future we want to build. Adaptability and resilience, that's the lesson that resonates the most during Fab Academy. Because every week you have to move from one subject to another. So there was like, you always need more time. You always want to try something else. You always want to go beyond your final project. So you need to adapt. And there's also something that I really enjoy. It was in Saturday, we have this group in which we just discuss about how was the week, and we still have some days left in case we need to fix something or we have a question, right? So it was really cool just to jump in a call with a bunch of friends and start talking like, oh, I accidentally almost ruined my 3D printing today, or like it was like my design was incorrect by 1 centimeter to the left or the right. So it was a really cool experience to see how everyone was collaborating in that sense. So what you're seeing on the screen is my final project from Fab Academy. What I do in Moonmakers is creating educational resources that go with the base of curiosity and exploration. So I wanted to bring that to my final project. So what I did is creating this book called Circuit Lab, in which the idea is to have a circuit body, which is going to be your companion during the learning process, and then obviously you will have different subjects. So we need to make that merge. We need to make it interesting and cool for someone to start learning a new subject. In this case, I choose electronics. So through magnets and 3D printing and a lot of tests on PCBs for sure, I was able to build my main board with different sensors, like the screen as well as an interesting output. So the idea is that you take your main board and you can connect it to each page, and each page is an interactive circuit in which you can touch and move around and learn a little. And as well, I wanted to integrate more than just something physical, because hands-on learning is really important to understand the different processes. But I also wanted to go beyond that. So I created an app in which you can connect to each page and have like an AR experience, so you can see things moving around, or like helping to understand the different concepts, but more like a plus. When it comes to learning, there's a lot of different methodologies that say you should go screen-free, so I think this is really important. But also we should use technology as what it is, which is a tool. So with that in mind, I'm already working in the version 2 because my final project is something that I really enjoy. I want to try around new mechanics in paper. I want to try a bigger screen. I want to try a bigger process for the app, like imagine little games to understand the different parts of electronics as well. And I think what I have learned through my experience so far, like I went through different process of learning to teaching and then learning again for sure. And I think that's the process. You're always learning something new. You're always evolving in your surroundings. So I feel really lucky to be part of this network and this community, which is amazing, because I feel there's a space to discuss. There's a space to speak up and to ask questions and to be able to share something, which is a lot of curiosity and a lot of excitement was creating. I feel like in the last couple of talks, there's always this part of like, there's something that joins us all together here, which we all are a little nerds, right? We all love a little bit more certain subjects, but in general basis, we are here because we are passionate about learning, about creating, about innovation. So I feel like that's something really important in education. As a young person, I feel if we are able to create that spaces in which you feel comfortable to speak up and to try, even though you will make mistakes, and you have to understand that that will happen for sure. Like, it's part of the process of learning. And I feel like nowadays it's part of it, and we have to understand that we can go beyond that mistakes, like I did in Fab Academy. I rethink my final project more than once, and I make a lot of mistakes. But for me, education is about that, growing and exploring. And if you can do it with a group of people that is there for you, and I feel it's like, it's beyond a community. It's a group of friends that just join together to learn and to explore possibilities. And this is something that I really like, and I'm really grateful to be part of the conference this year and be able to talk with all of you and to be part of like this change about Fab. I mean, it's amazing. And I feel like we don't talk enough about how this community has grown during the past years and how it's keep growing. And I think one subject about yesterday that I really like was the theory of change, I feel like we can change things, and as a young generation, I feel like sometimes we forget about that. So we need to still get that hope of like, things are evolving and changing, and if we want to be part of the changes of the future and we want to build our future, we need to make sure to understand technology, to understand the learning process, to be part of it. So I'm really grateful to be today here, and I hope I share a little bit of things that we maybe all of us already know, but I feel like summarize it and connected to my Fab Academy journey was something that I really wanted to do. And as well, I will take advantage of the main stage to say that today is the graduation. So there's going to be a big party later on, and I'm really looking forward for that, for sure. I mean, There's a bunch of students here that make the Fab Academy. They survived the Fab Academy, and they did amazing final projects. So I could really love for everyone to just clap up for all that Fab Academy students. So please. And again, thank you so much, and I really enjoyed to be here in the main stage. And before leaving, I could love to take a selfie with all of you, because that's part of it. So, if that sounds good, I will just record a video with everyone in the background. Sorry? Oh, can the light team put light on the, oh my God, I feel really powerful with the whole main stage. You know, I feel like I could say like, that side or that side, and then so, thank you so much for that suggestion. Okay, so, hey! Thank you so much, everybody, and enjoy Fab Academy. Pardon, sorry, I speak Spanish for a second. Enjoy FAB25. We're in the middle of it, and there's still a lot of activities, so you don't want to miss anything. And we will have an amazing conversation in a couple of minutes. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Camila, Luna, everyone. And as she said, soon we'll welcome her back on stage for a shared Q&A. So if something popped in your mind, just send it through the Eventi app. But up next, we'll hear from someone who truly lives and breathes learning by doing and shares the journey with the world. He's a Polish maker, open source enthusiast, and the creator behind two popular YouTube channels, one under his name and other called Proste Części, or in English, Simple Parts. Some of his best-known creations include Indie Mill CNC machine, Ludwig drone, ChatGPT robot, and Dremel CNC. Most of his work is shared open source. His projects have earned awards at both national and international levels, and his academic track record is just impressive. So let's hear directly from him and find out how to build anything and share it with the world. Please welcome Nikodem Bartnik.
Hi, that's me, a very long time ago. When I was younger, my toys were not teddy bears. It was the regular objects. In this case, it's an analog camera. I loved disassembling everything when I was a bit older, so whenever I found a screwdriver and something that I could disassemble, I did. My parents were not super happy about that. They were okay as long as things work when I put them back together, which I did, and sometimes they worked. But this passion for disassembling the objects turned into a bit longer passion, into creating YouTube channels, into graduating from the university, and I'm also personally interested a lot in space. And I would like to tell you about my projects, the projects that I built, this that you saw on my YouTube channel, probably, but also this that, well, were just my projects when I was younger. And we'll start with this one. This is a tree house that I built with my dad when I was probably like 10 years old. My dad is not working in construction, he is not an engineer. I just said enough times that I want a tree house that we finally build it at my grandma's property. And this project was very important for me because it was the first time when I actually understood that I can turn something that's in my head into a real project. I can build it, and it's there, it works. And my dad was not a teacher, as we heard just a few moments before. It was a coach. He was the coach. And he never asked me questions. He never checked my knowledge. It was just about me exploring, building, actually us two exploring and building. It was a lot of fun, and it was a great learning experience. And the part of not asking questions, not checking my knowledge, it didn't feel like school, which will be important at the end of this presentation. Then I met Dad, and that's my very first YouTube video. It's still there, you can watch it. And it was just a simple stop-motion animation of Lego with a motor. And the reason why it's a stop-motion animation, it's not because I thought it is cool. My camera was just so bad. The video was so bad from the camera. I thought I would just take a bunch of pictures because the resolution is higher. I would join them together and we'll have a video. So that got like 300 views. 250 of those was me refreshing the YouTube page. But it was fun. I made the first video. I was like 12 years old. Of course, it was just the fun of, yeah, I shared the video on the internet. People can watch it. I never thought about actually creating anything more. But then I thought robotics. You saw like kids in movies building robots, creating something cool, and I really wanted to try that. I never heard about Arduino at the time. I just found a schematic online for a light-following robot. You can just flash with a flashlight, and the robot will follow the light. That's how it works. I didn't know about protoboards, breadboards, nothing. So I bought the components in a local electronics store. I grabbed the piece of cardboard, and I punched the electronics through the cardboard and soldered all of that on the other side. And it kind of worked. It wasn't super cool. I had this big, bulky soldering iron, so it was pretty hard. But it kind of worked. Then on YouTube, in a video, it was made by a Polish creator. Unfortunately, he's not recording anymore. But he was the inspiration for like the beginnings of my work, because I found about Arduino. My first thought, this will be so expensive, no way I will afford it. And then I found it's just $40 with all the other sensors and parts. So I asked my parents, and they bought my first Arduino board, and I built that. It's a POV clock, persistence of vision clock. We have there a ruler, breadboard, battery, a lot of glue, a lot of tape. And when you spin it at a proper RPM, it starts displaying text, which you will see in a moment. Because of the refresh rate of the camera, it's not that good, but it looks good on when you see it with your eyes. It just says Arduino. Why this project was important? I had no idea how to build it. It took me probably 3 months to build such a simple project, but I had to look through the tutorials to understand on my own how do I need to blink all the LEDs, how do I need to spin the motors in order to achieve this persistence of vision effect. And I also, of course, published a tutorial about that on the internet. Then I built an eggbot, which is a really cool project. It's like a little CNC machine that draws on eggs. It's a very popular project. And at that time, I did not have a 3D printer, so it was built with everything I could find. For example, the egg is held in place with Lego tires. There is a lot of wire, a lot of hardware components. The PCB will fall in a moment because it was held with a double-sided tape there. It was a crappy project. As you can see, the resolution was very low, but after a few years, when I gained a bit more knowledge, I rebuilt it again, and it was pretty good. This project shows that you don't need fancy equipment to build something cool. You can do it with anything you have around you. And then, this is a very important website. Probably a lot of people knew about Instructables. Instructables is a website where you can share your own projects. You can read about other projects that people built, and there are step-by-step instructions on how to build them. So at some point after building the POV clock, the eggbot, some simple robots, I thought it would be cool to share that with the world. Just because I was curious what other people think, and I thought maybe it would be helpful for someone. On Instructables, there are also contests where you can win some cool prizes, and, for example, tools or parts for your next projects. One of the projects that I really like here on this slide is the bike speedometer that has like an analog arrow that shows you the speed just like in a car. It was a very interesting project. Then I got a 3D printer for the very first time. And I built a snake robot. It was just 8 servo mechanisms, a simple PCB that I made at home with a microcontroller, with Arduino code on it, and it was working. Sorry, that's like all the video I have from that. I lost all the other footage. But I also built a bit more useless projects, like the useless machine. When you turn it on, it turned itself on. The cool part about that, it was not using the Arduino. It was just the 555 timer. It was also 3D printed, so that was nice. But 3D printing has limitations. It's incredible technology. It's super cool. But what's next for me? I started to wonder. And I thought, well, a CNC machine. CNC machines are expensive, so how can I build one myself? And I designed that, which I called Dremel CNC, because at that time, it was using the Dremel as the spindle. This project was a 3D printed CNC machine that you can print on any 3D printer you have. The other parts are very available, like in the whole world. It's very inexpensive to build it. That was my approach. I also, of course, wanted to share this project, but the point was I want a CNC machine, and I never expected it to be in any way popular. Well, at that time, I had 1,700 subscribers on my YouTube channel, and I think the Dremel CNC project is like a turning point for me, because that's when my channel started growing and growing steadily. Right now, I have 180-something subscribers, 1,000 subscribers. But it's important to mention here that before I released the Dremel CNC project, I already made 59 YouTube videos. So for a very long time, I have been just sharing these videos without any traction, without much views, without much subscribers. It was not a business at all, but I was still in high school, so it was just fun for me to do it. When I released the Dremel CNC project, it got quite a lot of views, quite a lot of attention, especially on Thingiverse. Currently, it has 28,000 likes, which is a lot on Thingiverse. And on the map, you can see where people build the Dremel CNC, because I made a Facebook group. There is like 12,000 people there. And from time to time, I ask, hey, where are you from? And if you build the Dremel CNC, and I put them on a map, so you can see that. That's pretty cool to see people that build this. But again, after some time, I started to wonder, okay, I have this CNC machine. It's cool to learn how to CNC machine. You cannot really do like aluminum or metals. What's next for me? So I thought, let's build a bigger one. This time made it out of metal. I called it Indie Mill. And it uses metal parts. These parts that you can see, the blue ones, are custom laser cut from steel and then powder coated. And here, they're on my bed, because for a very long time, when I have been working on my videos, I have been doing all of that from my room, which was like 8 square meters. So during the day, it was the workshop, and during the night, it was my bedroom. It was pretty interesting to work in a such tight space, but it worked. You can do it even without the Fab Lab, because unfortunately, I had not access to one of them. When I built this project, it was cool, it was interesting. Again, most of the parts were easy to source, but these plates, you had to either make them on your own or order laser cutting, which is expensive, hard. People usually don't know how to order something like this. So I thought, let's try to turn it into a business. It started as a joke that I told to my brother that, hey, I want to start a company. And then he took it a bit more seriously, and 2 months later, I started a company and started selling that online in my own online store. So far, the store, by the way, is my website where I share all the projects. Indie Mill is open source, Dremel CNC is open source as well, is industry.cc. And so far, the orders has been shipped to like these countries labeled in blue, which is pretty cool. And from time to time, I get an email from someone that, hey, I built an Indie Mill, here is a picture. So here you can see the pictures from the community of people that built this machine. But CNC machining and the project that I already showed you, that's not all what I create. I also recently started working on Indie Mower, which is an open source lawn mowing robot that can cut your grass. Right now, it's a bit more polished. It already has a nice case, and I'm working on improving some of the parts, but it is already working. It's an open source project. You can find all the files on GitHub for that. And it compensates for the movement of the Earth so that you can take long exposure photographs of the night sky. As you can see, like the sky stays in the same place, and the Earth rotates. It's called Star Tracker. I built a lot of projects. These are some of the recent ones, the weather station, a robot arm. I experimented a lot with AIs, or LLMs, large language models, on robots. I even started a small Kickstarter, which was successful, and it was a lot of fun to make my own robotic chassis. But recently, I released a robot about ChatGPT that was controlling the robot. It was an interesting idea, and I thought, well, it might be cool, let's try it. When you make YouTube videos, you get really attached to the numbers and to the views, and I tend to rate the video based on the view numbers. So recently, I'm trying to look at the video before I release it, and I'm like, without the views yet, do I like the video or not? So for this one, for the one that says I'm in control, I was like, it's a decent video. It's not bad, of course, but I wouldn't say it's super cool. For example, the one with LiDAR and machine learning, that was a cool video. I like it a lot. But the one at the bottom, it was just okay, mainly because the results were like this.
The camera sees a clearer view of the room with the plant in focus and the light shining through the window suggesting an open area ahead. No obstructions directly in the path to navigate further into the space.
Sometimes it was a bit smarter, but generally, large language models are not meant to control a robot. And as I said, this video, in my opinion, was okay. But in the end, it got 25 million thumbnail impressions. 25 million people saw this little image before you click a YouTube video. And in the end, almost 2 million people watched the video, which was crazy. It was just a robot driving and pretending to understand the word. And people spent 5,000 days watching this video, which is a lot. But now, from all of these projects, how can we get more people into STEM? Because that's the goal. When I started working on my videos, the goal was to share instructions, to show people how they can build my own projects, how they can replicate them, and also see the feedback so that they build it, they tell me, I remixed that, this is a better way. But then I slowly started to transition into videos that are a bit more inspirational, like the one with the robot. So I have a brother, he's way older than me, that's not him, this is his son. That's Mateusz. And one day he came to me and he said, Nikodem, I want to build a project without even asking what is the project. I told him, of course, we will build a project. We bought the parts and started building. As you can see, he was very involved in this process. He was doing basically everything on his own. I was just making sure that he's safe and helping him when he didn't know how to do something. And just like my dad, a long time ago, wasn't the teacher, he was the coach. He never asked me questions, he didn't check my knowledge. I did the same to Mateusz. I was just there, I let him do mistakes. So for example, this part that he's doing right now, he did it and he was like, I think it's wrong. I think I did this, and this mistake. And I was like, yeah, if you think so, let's do it again. So we do all this plate for the controllers again. And it was great because he understood that he did make a mistake and how to do it better next time. The project was that. He also did all the soldering and he did a really good job at that. The project was a mini arcade machine that you can put on top of your table and you can play the old games. It was pretty interesting. It used a Raspberry Pi and the RetroPie for that. Pretty cool project, very inexpensive, and Mateusz was very happy about it, and I saw that he's interested in it and that he wants to do something more. That was last year. We built it during the summer. This year we are planning to build a bit more complicated project, a mini go-kart. I have no idea it will work, but hopefully it will. The video, in the end, got like, I don't know, at the beginning probably 5,000 views, so it wasn't much, but it wasn't about getting views. It was about inspiring the young kid to understand that he can also make stuff on his own. So, as you can see, inspiring and starting as simple as just with playing with whatever you can find around you can then lead you to graduating from the university and maybe even starting a YouTube channel. I hope that I inspired Mateusz and others through my videos so that one day they turn this weird passion of being interested into objects around them and in making into a career. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nikodem.
Thank you.
Nikodem Bartnik, ladies and gentlemen. And now, please welcome Camila Luna back on stage. She will be joining us for Q&As. Camila, please come and join us. Hi. Hello again. And please sit down. Wow, I must say that the big stage suits you. Thank you for your talks. I think it's very important that you are here with us on this huge theater stage. But now, when you're learning something totally new, what's your first go-to step? Is it video, tinkering, asking someone? What is it?
That's a good question. Do you want to start? Or you want to think about it? It's a complicated question because I think it depends, right?
It depends on what you want to learn, I guess. But for me, it's YouTube because that's what I do. So I always start with, like, maybe there's a YouTube video about it. Maybe I can see, like, what the person did, what was, like, usually at the end, what were the mistakes, what should be done differently. But usually the internet, I guess.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think from my answer, it depends because inspiration comes from different places. So I really enjoy doing YouTube videos, like that filmmaker vibe of like, so sometimes you see something on a movie and you're like, I want to recreate that scene. And now you're like, but what should I do with that one? Like, I need to justify it to just put it on YouTube video, right? So I guess sometimes you feel inspired by someone else or like you're seeing something or you start exploring something and you just want to share it. So for me, it kind of goes from like, oh, I like this piece of hardware, I want to talk about it. Or like, ooh, I could love to record this like type of project about something related to any...
And other parts like screws.
Okay.
So it's just like parts of the whole project that you finish on your own. You have to buy all the other components. I'm not selling like spindles or any high voltage devices. And because of that, I don't have to deal with that. If I were to sell like a complete kit, then probably. But also it's something that is finished by the customer in the end. So it's up to them to make sure that the machine is safe.
Cool. Camila, have you ever thought of expanding with moon makers globally?
Oh, for sure. I think I'm a big fan of what Neil says, you know, like start from small and then go bigger and bigger and bigger, right? So obviously he doesn't say it like that, right? But for sure, I think the idea of moon makers is to make a space for not just learners, but also teachers to feel comfortable around subjects like technology and science and mostly STEM. So I feel like if at some point it becomes bigger than me and my brother, I feel like I'll be really proud of it.
How it is doing so far, working with teachers?
I think it's a completely different experience. It depends. We have go from like different grades, from like kindergarten to universities when it comes to students, and then the same way with teachers, that they teach different subjects, different grades. And I think that's something really important when it comes to education, the part of adapting to them, you know, and adapting even the lessons to the community and their interests of the students, so they feel motivated to be part of it.
Nikodem, how popular are makers in Poland? Were people also improvising during communist era as in Czechia?
Makers in Poland, we have some very big, for example, YouTube channels. There is a channel called Made in Poland, literally that's the name, and like the guy builds really incredible constructions. He has plenty of views, so that's one of the examples. We have guys from the northern part of Poland. They built like underwater drone. It's called a CPS drone, and that was a very cool project. Unfortunately, I do not know like personally anyone from my community, local community, but in general, there's a lot of makers in Poland, I think.
Are there many Fab Labs in Poland?
Yes, I checked that just yesterday on the map.
Because you said that you haven't, that you didn't have an access to.
Yeah, and that's the problem, because there are a lot of Fab Labs everywhere, but like where I live is just like a hole. There's nothing. I think we have one in Gliwice, a city close to me, but it's just like super small, and it's not a part of the Fab Lab network. It's just a little maker space.
Okay. Camila, what has been the best of doing an exchange-making experience in a different country?
Ooh, I love that question, because I have to move to Spain for Fab Academy, and obviously you want to go out and discover the city, but you also have to document a lot when it comes to Fab Academy. So it was a really interesting combination of wanting to be on a train and document everything of your final project, and then just arrive in the lake and everyone is just chilling on the lake and you're working on your final project. So I think it was really interesting to be able to be part of such an interesting community in Spain, and I really enjoyed the regional reviews, so plan ahead with instructors from that side of different Fab Labs. And honestly, I feel like in general, it didn't feel like I traveled so far from home, because the community was there every week and everyone was suggesting ideas. So I was like feeling really welcome on the whole Fab Lab network.
Good to hear. You are often mentioning inspiring younger generations. What about the old ones?
Okay, so we just look at each other and then who's going to jump? Should I jump? Okay. I think it's important for sure. I mean, when you are always learning, doesn't matter the age. I feel like mostly from my point of view, I focus on younger generations because there's a lot of different skills that they have to develop for the future. So there's a lot of uncertainty in the future. And I was talking actually about this subject yesterday during dinner. You know, like the younger you are, the easier it is to learn by playing. So it's like we want to take advantage of that stage in life and be able to use even the educational system to be able to help add that skills on their toolbox, right? But for sure, I think when it comes to learning, everyone can still learn and do stuff. And I feel like even in history, there's a lot of amazing creators and philosophers and amazing people that have made their projects or like their masterpiece in a really I was not going to use the word old age, but you know, like the more you grow, the more you learn, the more you can do. But yeah, I think every age can keep learning and doing stuff.
What do you think, Nikodem?
I mean, of course, I agree. Everyone can learn, and it's not about just being young, where you can explore. Younger people have more time. They're at school, so it's like it's their job to learn and explore. But when we are older, of course, we can also learn, and it's very nice. I can like tell you from what I see in my email box. A lot of people send me emails that, for example, they are already retired, and now they have time to explore, to learn. So, for example, they start building my projects. They build the CNC machine because they're already retired. They have time to create stuff like this, and it's pretty cool. My dad is another example. He's like exploring like a lot of different stuff at once. For example, he built this little, I have forgot the name, but where you put the canva and you paint on that. He built it himself just because he wanted. He spent like probably 2 months on that. It was not worth it, but he wanted to do that, so why not? Everyone can learn and build and make, of course.
And there's such a rewarding feeling about making, like how you say it. It took 2 months,
Yeah.
and maybe it doesn't work like it should be,
Yeah.
but I still feel like worth it to just get hands-on on
And
something.
it's in any way not dependent on the age.
Yeah,
The feeling is
exactly.
the same always, so why not?
Yeah.
Speaking of that, Nikodem, do you think building things together is the most enjoyable way to spend quality time with your parent? How could we scale it?
Or scale it. Yeah, I think it's, for me, of course, it's a personal thing, but for me, it's a great way to spend time together, even like doing stuff in a garden. For example, recently with Dad, again, we built some simple construction in the garden to just, grow vegetables and stuff like this. So it's a great way to spend time together, but how to scale it in terms of doing it like with the whole family, maybe, I guess. That
Maybe,
could be a
yeah.
way to scale it, to grab every member of the family, no matter the age, and give them tools and distribute the tasks. That would be a cool way to spend your time with the family, definitely.
What's one project you haven't done yet but dream about?
That's a good question. There's a lot of really good questions. To be honest, I try to avoid dreaming about work, because if not, you wake up and you keep working on projects, so I try to avoid it. But I mean, right now, I'm really into my final project of Fab Academy, so that's something I dream often, like, I should add this, or like, I should change this. So I think for me, is to be able to generate a modular project in which you can teach a lot of different subjects and being able to upgrade it and all of that. I think the modular design when it comes to projects is super cool because it changed all the time. So.
Nikodem, what is your dream project?
I have no idea. I prefer not to have a dream project because once it's finished, what's next?
Yeah.
Like, am I supposed to be fulfilled and just, sit there and be like, yeah, I did it? No, I
Just
always
for a
have to-
little bit.
You take a
it's
break
hard for
after,
me.
right? Oh, nice. What's the next thing?
Exactly. It's always, what's the next thing? What's the next project? Like, the list is very long, and my time is just limited. So
So what's the next thing now?
the
on
next
your
thing
list?
now
Yeah.
is a robot that with reinforcement learning will learn to walk in the simulation on the computer with a software called IsaacSim from NVIDIA. So the robot is supposed to learn how to walk in simulation on different terrains, and then I want to move from this simulation to the real robot. It's hard. It's very hard.
Yeah, I can imagine. There are many people with no clue what they want to do or build. How would you spark them with curiosity?
I guess just start with something that there is always something that interests you. It's not like you may not have an idea for a project, but maybe you are interested in, I don't know, music. Look for some tutorials on Instructables on YouTube, what people build like related to music or to art, and try to build your own version. Maybe first you can even replicate the tutorial from the internet so that you know how to build something, and then you can add your own personal modifications to the project.
Cool.
Yeah, I feel we have a really good advantage that we have access to a big community in the internet, and there's a lot of creators, and mostly in YouTube, there's videos to understand and to build anything. So I feel like if you feel like there's no a clear idea of what you want to do, you can first maybe try to look for inspiration in subjects you already like, or maybe just go out to a Fab event, and I'm pretty sure you will have like a list of projects for the whole year.
I'm pretty sure of that too. Last question, and very personal to me. What would you say to a young person who feels like they don't belong in tech or making?
Oh, can I jump in first?
Yeah, no problem.
I feel this is such a good question, and I agree with you, but you see something or you want to build something, like, let's create that environment of learning together.
Nikodem.
I think it's hard to feel like not belong in terms of people in the making community, because everyone is so nice. This is my first Fab event, but literally everyone is so nice. Yesterday I tried sewing at the workshops, and I felt like I do not belong in this place, but everyone was so nice to me. It took me like 2 hours to make a simple bag, but I felt awesome. So
Yeah, but you have to show up. You have to show up to that place.
that's true.
And that takes courage. doesn't it?
A little bit,
Yeah.
but life takes courage, so yeah.
Yeah, sometimes can feel scary or overwhelming. Like, to be honest, when I walk on stage, I was like, oh my God, so many lights.
Yeah, me too. Don't worry
I was
about
like,
it.
I cannot even see like the whole
That
thing.
was my first thought.
Exactly. So I think there's the jump of faith. I really like it. You know, it was in the Spider-Verse movie, so big fan of movies. But the point of it is you sometimes have to trust the process and trust, and I agree with you, the community around creating is really welcoming. So, I mean, I feel like society in general, we are, as human beings, we are meant to make communities and to be like in this type of like collaborative, that feeling will go away. So.
Oh my God, you're so wise. Thank you for being here. That's all we have time for. But thank you again. Camila, Luna, Nikodem, Bartnik, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Perfect.
Evolving from hands-on STEM education to creative learning environments and community-driven programs, these speakers are driving change from the ground up. You will hear four quick but powerful speeches, different projects, different countries, but one mission: to rethink how we teach, learn, and prepare for the future. Let's welcome someone who's already stood on this stage. This time he'll share what's likely the most significant upcoming chapter in FabLabs Brno story. Please welcome Tomáš Mejzlík.
The most important thing for FabLabs? That's the question I want to address in next upcoming 10 minutes. And I will need to use few snapshots from the FabLabs story. The first one comes back to 2017, when we established a FabLab Brno makerspace, which served to 1,000 people annually and 500 members. And if you would ask me the question, what is the most important thing back then, I would probably say machines. Big, beautiful, powerful, easy to use, easy to maintain machines. 2 years later, we launched our FabLab University track. You have probably seen it outside the university, which serves 6,000 students and around 40 to 80 schools, depending on how big the schools are. And if you ask me that, at that time, I would probably say that the most important thing for FabLab is program and activities that we are doing, because it's not about the machines, it's about what can we do with it. Next snapshot is, I'm going to stay with this for a little bit longer. This is STEM promotion project in our region. I think that a lot of you have similar projects in your countries, in your regions, but this one came from the interest of stakeholders, like high-tech companies, Brno University of Technology, and region. And basically they came with an idea, we lack graduates from STEM fields, and we want to do something about it, and asked us, if you are not part of the university, you are not part of the school, you are not part of the company, you are kind of independent, it would be great if you would, as a FabLab Brno, go step in and take the lead and coordinate the project. We answered yes, but let's set some conditions. The first one was the project is going to be for a longer period of time. It's not about 2 years, 3 years, at least 5 to 10 years. And then we are focusing on the general STEM, not like specific field of the STEM, but the general one. And it's going to be data-driven. So it's not emotions, it's not like ideas of some people at important positions in companies or in the region, it's about the data. And we went for the project. And we believe in the STEM project that if we combine science and technology, knowledge and skills with inventor's mind, we can have a game changer. And we need game changers right now. But there are some things. First one is the birth rate. This is the birth rate of the last 100 years in Czech Republic. It averaged at 148,000 people, and in the last year it was 84,000 people. And this year is predicted to have 74,000 people. So we need more game changers, but we don't have more people for it. And the second problem is the interest in the STEM fields. In the Czech Republic there is around 300,000 students of the universities, and 28% of them are studying STEM fields. But at the primary schools, at the end of primary schools, so it's around like 14, 15 years, there is much bigger interest in a STEM field, 37%. So somewhere around high schools, we lose 9% of interest. We need to understand it a little bit deeper. So we did a research and survey with 7,700 students from 141 schools. And the main 3 reasons why they are not interested in STEM fields are basically these 3. They are afraid of the difficulty of these fields, majors, or occupations. The second one is they didn't feel like they succeeded in the subjects like math, physics, and stuff, and chemistry and stuff like it at the school, which kind of, light the situation in the school system right now. And the third one is STEM is not mainstream, at least not in the Czech Republic. So there are no like big stories, big media outcomes of the STEM jobs and stuff like it, so people don't know what they can or they could do after they finish their studies. 4 other interesting numbers. 80% of women finishing high school, so they are like 18, 19 years old, are not interested in STEM fields in Czech Republic, which is insane. They are not less talented, it's just some stereotypes that we made, that we created. We asked them, what was the most important thing when you're like deciding what are you going to do next? And the answer was parents. 35% of people, of students, like had answered this answer. And there was another question, kind of surprised me. We asked them, what did you miss the most to make a good career choice? And the answer was not information, not skills, not knowledge, but the courage. Courage to make the decision and then follow it. And then there is a last number. It's not from our survey or research. It's from Gallup and Walton Foundation research in the US. And the result of the research said, if we make students, like in elementary school, in the primary schools and the high schools, meet technologies or technological topics for 5 times, so have some 5 strong experience with technologies, it will change everything. 1 is not enough, 2 is not enough, but if you have 5 experience, the number of people that are, the people are double that more likely to study and work in the STEM fields. So the number, we want to do our first touch of the science and technology with Dream Machine. Do you know about my machine project? Anyone? Yeah, 1, 2? Not that much, but this is from Belgium, and I think it's really, after we finish the survey, this really fits into our activities, and we are going to launch it in September. It combines primary schools, high schools, and universities. And primary schools usually like until like I think like 12 or something, they have 1 question: what is your dream machine? And 1 task to draw it. So they draw like crazy ideas of dream machines, and then the hard work is on the university students. They need to find out how to create it, how to manufacture it. And then when they design, choose the materials and stuff like it, it goes back to the high schools, and high schools students are going to make it, create it. And in the end, like after a few months, everyone is meeting together, and they are celebrating the crazy ideas. And I think this might be really a good kind of partnership for a lot of FabLabs if you want to get in touch more with the educational, with the STEM. And the last snapshot from our story I would like to show is Vida Science Center and FabLab. It's actually a snapshot from the future, so I'm not sure if it's called snapshot. But we are combining and merging these 2 organizations. It's going to be 1 space, it's going to be 1 team, 1 mission, and around 6,000 square meters, full of experience, education, and make. And with Vida Science Center, we are, having like 200,000 visitors per year, so which is like, it's around if you divide the visitors, by the users of FabLab, Vida has like same amount of visitors as we have members in a whole year, and they have it in one day. So just to sum it up. And this table holds the answer for the question: what is the most important thing for FabLabs, at least from our perspective? I put some more numbers as employees and the budget in these like stages, in these snapshots. But the secret, I think, is here. Since we became the leaders of the STEM project, and so we are kind of leading and coordinating 4 universities that have 70,000 students. We are coordinating 16 powerful high-tech companies that have billions of revenues. We are coordinating regional government and city government that they run like 200 schools in the region. And I was trying to find the answer what's one word, and I think it's the word is connected. Since 2024, I feel like FabLab Brno is connected. We are doing something bigger than ourselves. We are connected with partners, but before we connected with these partners, we needed to speak their language, understand their needs, speak their language, and then match with our vision. I think very important thing is also balance action and adoption. We have always had a vision of our future, of how we want to grow and stuff like it, but if we would just be strict about that vision and not kind of include ideas from outside, we would never be able to have a project like STEM, or we would never be able to combine our forces with Vida Science Center. And last but not least, let data guide your direction. Not emotions, but the data. They hold the truth. So one last thing, a FabLab alone serves itself, and connected FabLab serves the future. Thank you very much.
Yeah, big stuff on the horizon for FabLab Brno, so fingers crossed. But let's continue with the second talk from the series of a fast talk. In this one, we'll hear about an unexplored potential within the FabLab network, introducing us to the skill nest, a concept that aims to become the missing link between FabLabs and the labor market. Please welcome Assistant Professor at Brno University of Technology, David Škaroupka.
Let me start with a question. Who actually works in FabLab? I mean, as employee, volunteer, anyhow, raise your hand. Prank, it was just fitness exercise. I of course knew that it's most of people. So I guess you are educators like me. Are you giving the spark? You need to burn, right? To give a spark. Please don't burn out, and I'm not talking about Jan Hus. We are making digital fabrication and creativity more accessible through FabLabs, right? We live in the world of intense digital growth, and we are finding that what was once a hobby for geeks is becoming necessity for a growing number of people. We are faced with the need to understand rapidly changing paradigm of human work due to the technology disruption. We don't know what the necessary skills will be in the future. The only certainty is change. For over 2 decades in FabLabs, we have been teaching through practice, working with the digital tools, reducing barriers, making communities. We are in a unique position to face challenges described. My name is David, and I will tell you how we are going to do it. Or even better, this is how we do it. And we are going to deliver you a nice package. Over the past year, we have taken the best knowledge of 6 FabLabs in Central Europe and transformed it into the unique content for you. And now we think, will it be just another workshops for FabLabs? Not only that. Because our educational programs will be labor market relevant, will be scalable and ready to uptake by you, and will bridge people with the solutions for re-upskilling in digital age. So how we are going to do it and where we are now? After confirming our landscape, stakeholders, ecosystem, and target groups, we currently are in the phase of piloting of our workshops. And we have selected a few examples that do not capture full scope of the consortium, but will create a sufficient picture of what we are doing. At Brno University of Technology, we run an open laboratory called StrojLab, meaning machine lab. And one of the highlights is 3D printing from metal powders. Upskilled students are well equipped to cooperate on such projects like satellite console for ESA. Another example, with target group students, is long-term competition where students' teams are using equipment of FabLab Brno and make prototypes of their own inventions. Next pilot run of our partner Happy Lab is delivering first-hand taste of Industry 4 to the apprentices of Wiener Linen, which are upskilled to cut and code their own robots and working robots. Next example of our partner Brick from Ingolstadt is hackathon for SMEs, followed by 4-month product development and occasionally full-day workshop. Pilot is focused on teamwork involving company team members. Next pilot run of our partner Noi Tech Park is divided into the 2 sessions, Learn It and Make It, where participants first build their digital skills and then apply them. It's also ideal for roles in SMEs. Our last project partner, FabLab Zagreb, harnesses design thinking methodologies and inclusive innovation to empower underrepresented communities. And this would be all for now from tasting of our pilots. But our plan is to reflect feedback from so many entities and individuals as possible. So let's participate. I would like to encourage you to participate on today's work group at 4, where we can together dig deeper, and you will not regret, because all of our results will be later delivered by one application. It's called skillnest.app, and it is the web platform for matching labor market needs with the FabLabs, and it is, of course, a work in progress, but all presented pilots you can already find there, and they will be foundation for our new educational programs to be delivered through Skillnest later. We also already building database of skills expert where you can participate too. So, our plan is to deliver missing link to the labor market. Our workshops and educational programs will be scalable and ready to future uptake and modifications made by you. But these modifications requires sometimes huge effort. That's why we offer the customization of our workshop to suit your ecosystem. The only thing you need to do, of course, is to subscribe. The offering of bespoke workshops is designed only for 50 first subscribers. And since you are one of the first to hear about it, take a chance to subscribe first. So what will be next steps? We will contact you during October 25 to understand your needs. Till April 26, we will confirm your bespoke workshops with you. And during summer 26, we will deliver result for you prior to publishing, so you can enjoy it first. So we heard how we do it, but what is more important is how you do it. So you can talk with the guys in this t-shirt. You can join our DIST project LinkedIn page. And you can join our work group today at 4. But more importantly, don't forget 2 things. First, FabLabs will be more important contributors to the labor market in future, and you can shape it with us. And secondly, subscribe to the Skill Nest. It's your missing link to the labor market. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Have you ever seen a coolest merch for European project? Then this is how we do it. Love it. Okay, third talk, we'll hear the inspiring story of how a dedicated initiative has supported over 2,500 women in Fab Labs, opening doors, building confidence, and creating new opportunities in the maker world. So please welcome board member at Robish.to, Karolina Guzek. Hi, welcome.
Thank you. I don't have a
Clicker. Oh, I get you one. Can we have a clicker, please?
Here you go. Thank you. Hi. So imagine that you host a birthday party. And just for the purpose of this case, let's say half of your friends are men and half of your friends are women. And then the day of the event comes. And you realize that only 30% of guests who actually showed up are women. So you delve into the reasons, wonder, why is that? Your event was supposed to have equal opportunities. And you ask around and you get to know that some of them were discouraged to come by friends or family. Some of them are single mothers and didn't have childcare for that day. Some of them met other barriers, like menstrual health, transport exclusion. They didn't have resources. And some of them, they were just simply not interested in the event at all, or they secretly didn't like us. So which one of those reasons you are most likely to accept as a host? I can bet that the next time you will be organizing a party, you will try to meet those first 3 reasons so your friends can actually attend the party. So our goal would be that the only people who won't show up that are the ones that are actually not interested at all. So this is our perfect scenario, that people can choose for themselves whether if it's something as prosaic as a silly party attendance or choosing this career path. So this analogy means to help us understand that social barriers often work unnoticed. And even if in the beginning, if we thought that our actions were equal, at the end it turns out that they are not 100% equal. So, and the 30% of attendance in the analogy wasn't so coincidental after all, because if we see in the students of Polish technical universities, only 35% of them are women. And if we look even closer, in the female in ICT sector, in Poland there are only 14%, comparing to 19% in the European Union. And then it doesn't change so much throughout the years, because if we look at the female ICT professionals, they're just a little bit above 19% in Poland and 19% in the European Union. So, as we see, there are some women in ICT, but there is still a huge gap. So the question is how FabLabs can bridge these gaps, because in my opinion, there are perfect places to do so. And our association, Robisz.to, for the last 8 years, supported in the free exclusive projects just for women, over 2,500 women. We run 3 Fab Labs, 3 labs. One in the north of Poland, one in the south, and one in the capital. And for the last years, we developed a Maker Woman project together with Orange Foundation for women. And in the last years, we also opened 2 new projects, Pact for Women with Ministry of Digital Affairs, because supporting women in ICT became part of the national policy and also European Union guidelines. So for the years, we conducted many classes from ICT, coding, CNC machine, the operating, the design, and the duration of the project varied from few months long, few weeks long, few days long, even to few hours. But all of them circled around the same skills. So gaining the practical skills, project and problem-based learning, prototyping their own products. And actually, those are not really great products. Those are not the products that are innovative and are going to change the world. They are not going to go to the market. Sometimes it happens that after our project they go to the market, but it's not very often. So what's more important is like this personal scale, private scale innovation. And we evaluated, we checked those motivations and goals of women who comes to our projects. We created a report from a Pact for Women project, evaluating over 600 applications of women who applied to our project. Here's a QR code if you want to check the report at our website. It's in English. So it's only a few hundreds applications, but I can tell you that the motivations align also with other applications, which were tens of thousands, actually. I can tell you because I read almost all of them. So what are those motivations? Like choosing the right career path is why women come to the lab. So we know that after the projects, they can find an employment, even if it's not directly linked in the course that they take. We see that their self-esteem grew because of the project-based learning. They developed in small steps, they developed something, so they learned that they're capable of doing something. And later in the evaluation, we see that it helped them find a job. Bringing an innovation to the current job. So it doesn't matter if they are accountants and they came to the lab to learn how to code and create their own database, or they are in the fashion industry or furniture industry and they want to revolutionize this with the 3D printing, or maybe they are librarians or teachers and they just want to do new projects with children at school. So we know that they learn or many skills or one particular skill that was useful for them to innovate their current job. Also, they want to escape the burnout and change this mindset from I don't know how to do something to I don't know how to do something, but I'm gonna do it anyway and try. And open business on their own terms. So they want to be flexible, they want to learn, excel in one skill and maybe buy a laser cutter, 3D printer and do their own job. But coming back to the first question, so why some of the women don't come to the party? We identified that some of the women were discouraged by friends and family. There is a very nice report on this, actually. It's from Educational Foundation Perspektywy. It's a Polish foundation, every year doing reports on the stage of women in ICT and in technology, in STEAM in Poland, and also with this European perspective. So we know that as much as our family has amazing influence on us, can have amazing influence on us and our career choices, as much it can also discourage us from undertaking the technical studies. So from these reports, we know that 25% of female high school graduates were actively discouraged from choosing engineering majors. And also, the lack of role models in the environment is a big issue because almost 90% of them couldn't name one engineer, one expert in STEAM that are female. Maybe besides Maria Skłodowska-Curie. So when they come to the lab, they might not have experience in STEAM, but they can excel in other fields. They may already have a different career. So they achieved professional success in these areas, and they are not ready to start everything again. So they cannot just put all eggs in one basket and just close the life that they had until now. So they come to the lab, so they just want to experiment and try. So what we can offer them is what we do the best. So we prototype. But we don't prototype objects, and we prototype this experience for them. Because what is the better place to try to experiment than FabLab? So she can check if it's something that she really likes, if it makes her feel fulfilled, if she wants to continue develop this career in the field. So we also know that this female community is very important for learning, for the peer-to-peer learning, because they learn that other girls have the same path, or they might actually be in the field already, so they have new role models. And if you remember those 30% of girls who actually came to the party, so they are our role models. So those are the girls that already are in the field. They are as much important to have them in our project, so because they can push all the project further and support the ones that didn't have this opportunity before. Here there are my lovely colleagues, and Małgosia will have the session in the afternoon from Making Zine, so I recommend you to go. She's here. And then we also identified that other people who didn't come to the party are single mothers. So they were not alone, and in Poland, of all the families in Poland, 20% of them, more than 20% of them, are single mothers. Of all the families, can you imagine? So if they come to the lab, what they really care about the most is to have the financial stability. They want to have a job that will give them good money and flexibility, so they can at the same time take care of their children and not sacrificing all of their career. So they want to shape their own employment. Also, they want to be role model for their children and be able to inspire them and teach them something new. And what can FabLab offer them? Is as simple as just customize the schedule for them. Ask them what is important for them, how we can structurize the project so they can learn the best. You can add some additional consultation, mentorship, how to start their own business, how to start a project. And we took it one step further, and we created a nursery in our lab. So, well. So we continued this project for 1.5 years, and while mothers had classes, children had classes in a different room, but they also could observe how mothers are prototyping. So during breaks, mothers could come and show their prototypes to the children. Children were experimenting. So this was achieving the goal that they had, to be a role model for the children and teach them something new. And if you organize a project like this, adding this to the budget is not going to change that much, but it's going to change an outcome for this woman. And some of them told us that without this nursery, they couldn't attend the project at all. So we also specified that there are other obstacles, other women, and there is many obstacles, but I just want to focus on one community that is very important for us, which are Ukrainian migrants in Poland, because 77% of all Ukrainian migrants are women. And what we can offer them as much as just the classes in their own mother tongue. So we hired educators who spoke Ukrainian to give them new skills so they could maybe develop the new profession that doesn't require fluency in their language. So as we know, some of them already found employment, and some of them bought a CNC embroidery machine or a 3D printer, and they are doing some commissions, so they are starting to be flexible and independent, and also they got access to community and mentors. And there are many, many more barriers, and this talk, I am already past the time, but there's not enough time to talk about all the barriers. But I just can tell you that from all our projects, it's around 20% of applicants face some kind of disadvantages. And if you are shaping this kind of project in your lab, remember to pay attention to those barriers, whether you are designing a project for women or for youth, for people with disadvantages. Remember to pay attention to the equity and reducing barriers, because we are the hosts of this Fab Lab party, and it's up to us to decide who is going to attend. Thank you.
What a great insight from Karolina Guzek. And for our fourth and final speech talk, we are welcome to the stage someone whose family has been closely connected with the Škoda Auto legacy for a very long time. He is the head of chassis and powertrain development at Škoda Auto, a prominent engineer and a recognized technology leader within the company since 1996. Beyond the factory walls, he's also a regular lecturer at several universities, helping shape the next generation of engineers. To share his insight of how we can better motivate students to study technological fields in Czechia, please welcome Martin Hrdlička. Welcome.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello, ladies, gentlemen. First, it's my pleasure to have the chance to speak to you. Since today I was on the opposite side, so I have to enjoy this moment. Coming from Mladá Boleslav, from Škoda, is a Czech Detroit. Would like to explain you how to motivate the students for the studies in the technical fields. I'm coming from one of the biggest companies in our country, and of course we need the technicians, and it is difficult. We are celebrating 130 years, so we started 1895 to produce bicycles, motorcycles, and cars, and we are one of the oldest companies in the world. They survived and produce cars still. The dramatic situation in the Czech Republic, you can see on this chart. Within last 15 years, the graduates on the technical schools dropped down by 43%. You can also see the other topics like social universities or medical universities. And in the past, we have been first in the Czech Republic, but currently we are on the place fourth, and we are dropping and dropping and dropping down, really continuously for last 15 years. I'll jump into the solution. It is nothing new. STEAM topics and STEAM education of children is nothing new. I think it's maybe 20-25 years started in the United States, but still something new in our country. We can see that the children scare and have fear to speak and to solve some technical topics about technology, and we would like to change it into the enthusiasm, fun, and of course not only to get some young boys in the kindergartens and or grand schools or primary schools, high schools, but of course the girls and the women to have a fun achieving some progress, to have a fun to solve technical topics, which is really superb to discover something. And I don't like to have some obligations, but it should be solved with the fun. And I am pretty sure that the STEAM education could, and voluntary STEAM education could help to get more children into the system. And to be much more accurate, I am a technician. When I am speaking about the STEAM, I can see in the, I'd say, market one very interesting thing, and almost only this thing, in a systematic education, which are the international robotic STEAM competitions. There are two: first Lego League and VEX. What is the specific? It is systematic. It has some structure. It is international. You can compare as a child, as a student, not only within your school, but also outside in the region, in the country, international in Europe, and also between Asia, United States, or South America, and of course, so across of the whole world. So there are some standards, and if you come, I don't know, to the final world final, you can see that prestige universities, not only from the United States but also from Europe, are interested into the students here. It is very nice because it is not only working well on the primary schools but also in the kindergartens, and I think it is very important to look for the children also from the start, to give them some passion, some joy to solve or to work with the technologies. But it is not only about robot construction or programming, but it's also about communication, to work in the teams, and of course, if you go out of a country, also about the language skills, and so it is about socialization. So not only the technical topics, but also to be a member of the team and to feel the progress together with the team. Unfortunately, Czech Republic stay behind not only the world, but behind our neighbors, and our brothers in Slovak Republic have 4 times more teams, STEM teams in a robotic competition than we in our Czech Republic here. So the importance of the STEM context is not only for the children, as I mentioned, but also for the schools. The competitions help also to the team leaders, the teachers, and teaching to enhance their teaching skills. And of course, the communication is not only between the children, but also between the team leaders, between the teachers, between the schools, between the in Finland, Czech Republic, wherever you want. So the fun, the travel, the intercultural topics, recognition to be a member to as a team member. It's, I think, everything super motivation. And of course, the industry, in the end, wins nice, educated and technique-oriented people. And if not, they have at least, they know what does it mean to work with the techniques, even if they are financially or economically oriented later. So how we can help? We can help on the state level, means the Ministry for Education, or of course the Ministry for Industry and Trade are or have to be involved more to give some systematic support. But of course, on the regional or district level, the school authorities within the regions, and of course some voluntary base of companies and enthusiasts. For example, I am also a member of board of an endowment fund, and we are supporting not only EduLabs and other things, but also this STEAM education. But it's on the voluntary base, and we would like to look for some systematical support. So the summary, dramatic situation, 43% less, 50% less than we had 15 years ago. We have to awake the children interest on the technique, the scare and fair to change with the fun. The solution I see in the robotic games, but could change within the, I don't know, other kind, but these are the best platform I know. And of course, which is very interesting, it's take also the interest of girls and women, and we have really mixed teams, and I would say more girls and women than boys, which is really great, because this lack of the technical students, we could also, and we need more girls. And we have these three pillars, as I mentioned, and we would like to enrich at least the same standard as our neighbors, but I would hope into the better future, and because it's the only chance for our country to have the technicians, because we are a technologically driven country and we need it a lot. So thank you for your attention.
Martin Hrdlička from Škoda Auto, thank you for your talk. Okay guys, today's final block here at Janáček Theatre is research paper highlights. As at every FABX, we've set aside space for research, shining a light on academic and practice-based work from across the global FabLab community. From education to sustainability, to innovation and social impact, this year's submissions covered a wide range of topics. And in a moment, I'll hand over the mic to two people who helped shape this year's research paper program, and they served on the review committee that carefully read and evaluate all the submissions. So they'll talk us through some key insights, and they announced the Best Paper Award. So please welcome research professor at the Rotterdam University of Applied Science, Peter Troxler, and professor at UMA Institute of Design, Cindy Kohtala.
Hey! Hello, everyone. And this is the revelation of the best paper. But first, a big thank you to those people behind the screens, behind the emails, who did all the heavy lifting on reading all those papers, going through pages and pages and pages of intelligent reasoning to find out who can and who cannot present at this very conference. So thank you to Alessandra, Freda, Georgi, Serena, Pablo, and Ivan. A big hand. This conference has been a conference of nostalgia. So let's do some nostalgia as well. Research papers started in Wellington, New Zealand at Fab 8. We had exactly 4 papers.
Woo!
Woo. Then we moved to Yokohama with a much bigger number of papers, and to Barcelona, where we absolutely peaked. We had a packed session of like 30 plus papers, plus an equal number of posters as well. Moving on to Lima, Peru in Fab 11, Fab 12, 13, 14, 15 in Egypt, 16 after the COVID break in Montreal, the Fab Fest, then to 23, 24, and here we are at Fab 25. Great to be here. Now, before we go into content, I should say, before we delve into content, because we're all talking AI these days, I give you a little insight into the process, how those papers end up somewhere on the internet. And at the end of our talk, we're going to tell you where they are. Right. So what we did this year, for the first time, is a full peer review of full papers. This is actually highest academic standard as we know. No AI used. Pure thinking. People start sending in abstracts, short descriptions of what they want to write about. A call for paper looks boringly like this. Then the editors say, oh, that's kind of suits the Fab Lab topic or not. And we indeed get some submissions that are totally off topic. Totally off topic. And I'll come to off topic back again later, Cindy, right? Then they send in full papers. That's where the reviewers do their hard work. And at the end of the day, no, not at the end of today, but at the end of the process, those papers will go online. But now,
can we have a drum roll? Oh, man. Not bad.
Second runner-up.
Oh, by the way, this isn't just the highlights. We are actually giving the Best Paper Award. Does the audience know that?
There is.
I see. Man, you're good.
A Best Paper Award.
Da, 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 da. So,
that's for later.
There is going to be a Best Paper Award. There are also going to be 2 runner-ups. I am not Peter. I speak with a Finnish monotone. I mean, the word robot might be Czech, but so I'm going to try to punctuate with surprising emphasis, just to keep us all awake. So, second runner-up, third prize goes to this fantastic paper by Jan, Vicky, and Garrett. This paper is an examination of the academic literature around Fab Labs and their scientific impact, especially talking quantitatively. And what one does in a systematic literature review is then summarize the findings from these papers, which is really handy for us because then we don't even have to read all the papers. We read the lit review, and then we learn about all these findings. It uses the Fab City full stack as a framework, which means mapping to 7 interconnected layers from local production technologies to global knowledge sharing. So in this paper, then, we can actually see what researchers are studying when they're talking about quantitative impacts, and also, importantly, what they are not studying. So that means that there is room and need for more research. So from a review perspective, that we appreciate the rigor with which this study was conducted and presented, and also how they consider the notion of impact across quite a
wide variety of different types of literature. So this is clearly a relevant study and topic for everyone here as researchers and practitioners. So give it up for Jan, Vicky, and Garrett. If they're in the audience, give a wave. And you can find them at lunch, and then you can ask them questions about their paper. Drum roll. Fantastic. Jessica Stanley, woo! As the title says, this is a study probing flexible electronics, and Jessica points out to us that this is something that's not really has seen widespread uptake in Fab Labs. She describes 2 flexible PCB fabrication methods, but that's not just describing these kinds of methods in the research papers. We also need to kind of contextualize it. She puts it in the wider context by comparing this to standard techniques. And then she also takes an overview of projects and techniques that are inside Fab Labs and outside of Fab Labs. So from a review perspective, we see this as a very valuable and practical contribution to the Fab Lab community by demonstrating accessible methods for flexible electronics fabrication. The novelty lies in the practical adaptation and optimization of existing techniques for community use. This type of contribution is essential for advancing digital fabrication accessibility. Congratulations to the first runner-up, Jessica. Woo! Drum roll.
Not yet.
Not yet?
Not yet. I talked about off-topic, and you've seen 2 papers that are from very different backgrounds. And that's the one thing that's absolutely unique at this conference. You know, we get architects, we get biologists, we get social geographers, we get policymakers, we get makers, we got material scientists, we even got legal scholars, all contributing from their discipline to what FabLab means. And that's unique. That's extremely unique. The only scientific conference I know that does it. Transdisciplinarity in practice.
Exactly.
Drum roll.
Thomas! Yay, Thomas. The fantastic thing is that he is actually the wonderful research paper award that he is going to be given. This is a compelling and robust paper framed as Research Through Design, RTD, exploring sustainable, hyperlocal alternatives to mass-produced hygiene products. By leveraging indigenous production techniques and locally sourced biomaterials from 4 distinct Chilean bioregions, this research proposes a decentralized model for personal hygiene product development that considers local materials, heritage, and communities, aligning with ecological and cultural sustainability. From a review perspective, we consider this to be a well-grounded study that is clearly rooted in bioregional sensitivities. It is more than simply just exploring local and ecological materials. It presents a study that it is strongly contextualized locally and very well positioned within current research to make a clear and strong contribution to Fab Lab research. Give it up for
So that's the way you do it. Improvisation until the end. You want to say something, Thomas?
Amazing. Yeah, well, thanks very much. I'm on my way to Brno. I'm in the train. Actually, the research is very simple, but in fact, I think that this is an invitation for you to read it because somehow it talks about the potential connectivity of FabLabs with the local communities and also with bioregions. So I think that is, let's say, the new opening that FabLabs should start having. So I invite everyone to read it, and I will be there within an hour, so we can talk and discuss about it.
Yes, looking forward to see you.
Woo.
Thank you, Thomas. And behind these QR codes will be the proceedings of this conference. Papers will be uploaded during the week. So thank you all, and enjoy your lunch.
Thank you, Peter and Cindy. I'm not sure how can I continue after these two pros, but before you head to lunch, please stay with me for one more second, because I have very important information for you. Yeah, tomorrow it will be another kind of the ride, the Maker Train ride. So to that, tomorrow the train leaves 10:15 from Brno Dolní nádraží. Please double check the directions, as it is not the main train station. On your badges you can find a pictogram symbol of a carriage with the letter. If you have these, so you can go directly to the platform and you can board the train within the carriage that had the same letter as is it on your badge. If you don't have a carriage symbol on your badge, don't worry, we have enough space for all of the registered participants of this event. So you can go directly to the train station too at 10:15. Just please head to the waiting area and our organizational team will take care of you. And as for this evening, there will be an academic graduation starting 6:30 p.m. at Fleda Club. It's legendary Brno club. And as Neil said at the backstage, come, it'll be fun. And we agree. So after the graduation, there will be a party, a goodbye Brno party. And please note, there is no kitchen at the club, so grab your main meal before coming. There will be all kinds of drinks and snacks, and there is a celebration, so there will be a welcome drink for free for all of you. So the club lineup tonight is buzzing, featuring 3 renowned musicians ready to light up the light. Let's highlight just one, and it's a fun fact inside. Leoš Hort, known in the music world as HRTL, and what you might don't know about him, that he's actually closer to the maker community than you think. By the day, he works as an electronics project manager at Prusa Lab. So yeah, maker spirit all the way. And guys, this was it from this amazing venue, from Janáček Theatre. We are leaving the biggest stage in Central Europe, right here in Brno, leaving for Prague, but we are not leaving these decorations, because we are taking it with us. We are reassembling it in Prague, so stay tuned, because they will be looking very different. And if you'd like the stage, you can now enjoy the 15-minute window. You can go to the stage, take a photo, enjoy the view. It's a very wonderful view to this auditorium. So this is it. And for me, it's all from me now. Enjoy the lunch, enjoy the afternoon workshops. And whatever you do, please don't miss the Maker Train tomorrow. See you in Prague.